All right, hello everybody, and welcome to another edition of Hit the Pacecar. And and I don't know if we can call it Hit the Pacecar this week. It's more like Hit the Doctor. This is the Hit the Doctor podcast right now because me and Tyler have been sick, and it is what it is. And we're gonna try to give you the best podcast we possibly can. But as every week, I'm joined by my fellow sick boy. Tyler. Tyler, how are we doing here today?
Holding in there, man. Getting through the week.
Yeah, doing everything we can to really get through the week and get through this podcast here. Cory, how are we doing today? I don't think you're sick at all. I think you're chilling like a villain, aren't you?
Yep, I'm not sick. Living life. I have a 7-day work week, so just grinding through it.
Just grinding. Just stay grinding. Well, we're going to try to give you the best episode of Hit the Pace Car, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on Spotify. Of course, this week, post Nashville, and you're probably watching and or listening to this on Friday. So it's a brand new race weekend as it is Michigan week. And we will, of course, talk about Michigan and give a slight preview to Michigan here in a little bit. But first of all, of course, we have to talk about what had happened in Nashville this past weekend. First of all, I love when NASCAR goes to Nashville. I just feel like the city really puts on for NASCAR. You can tell that city and the people that live in that city or in that state are real passionate about the sport, which is just great to see. There's always so many events and so many fun things to do, whether you're on Broadway or at the racetrack. There's always some cool things to do at Nashville Super Speedway. And overall, a good racing weekend, not like the greatest racing weekend of all time. Obviously, we had, once again, weather affecting the race weekend as a whole, that's just, the rain just follows the NASCAR tour wherever it seems to go. And it just seems like we had that throughout the weekend once again, but we did get in all the races, luckily enough. And we'll start, of course, with the Truck Series. But before that, I do want to, of course, go through the top 10 results from the weekend and our points update. All right, let's first look at the top 10 results. You had Layne Riggs finishing first, back-to-back. Rajah was almost to go back-to-back on 2 seasons in a row at Nashville. Wasn't able to get the job done. Chandler Smith, a much-needed good run for him. Ross Chastain, anytime he's in the Truck Series, he seems to be a contender in 4th. And you had Tyler Ankrum, who also needed a good run, rounding out your top 5. You have Stuart Friesen in 6th, a good run from him. Grant Enfinger in 7th. I know he's trying to make the chase. Christian Eckes continues his good streak of runs in 8th. You had Gio Ruggiero 9th, and then a fantastic run from Daniel Dye, who is welcome back to the Truck Series, rounding out your top 10. And then we look at the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series. In first, we had Justin Allgaier getting another win on the year. In second, we had Brent Cruz still looking for that first career victory. We had William Sawalich in third. Sam Mayer with a great run in 4th. Brandon Jones rounding out your top 5. Corey Day in 6th. Carson Quaffle in 7th. Kyle Larson in 8th. Taylor Gray in 9th. And then Sammy Smith rounding out your top 10. And then we look over at the NASCAR Cup Series. We have Dennis the Menace, Denny Hamlin, getting another win on the year after an epic battle with his 2 teammates of Christopher Bell, who finished 2nd, and Chase Briscoe, who finished 3rd. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., an impressive run in 4th, driving that Kyle Busch NOS Energy Drink throwback. We had Shane Van Gisbergen, who had a very impressive night, rounding out the top 5. Tyler Reddick, who ran well all night, finishing 6th. Chase Elliott in 7th. Ryan Blaney 8th. Zane Smith continues to put in great runs in 9th. And then Carson Hocevar rounds out the top 10. And now we look at the points update. Layne Riggs maintains his points lead, 37 points in front of Caden Honeycutt. And then Christian Eckes is 3rd in the standings now, only 93 points back of Layne Riggs. And then we look at the bubble battle. We have Ben Rhodes 7th in points, 158 back of Riggs. We have Tyler Ankrum, who had a great run this past weekend, 202 points back in 8th. We have Stuart Friesen, 204 points back in 9th. And then also in a tie for 9th is Daniel Hemrick, 204 points back. And then we look just outside, looking in 11th in points. We have Jake Garcia, who's 6 points outside of the chase at the moment. And then Grant Enfinger, 26 points back. Look over at the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series points. Justin Allgaier just having a dominating season, having 770 points on the year. Second in the standings, Jesse Love, 179 points back, an insane amount of points back. We have Corey Day moving up to the top three, 196 points back of Justin Allgaier. And then we look back at the bubble battle. We have William Sawalich with the one win on the season so far, 341 points back of Lil Gator. 10th in points, we have Parker Retzloff, 354 points back. In 11th, we have Sam Mayer, 357 points back. And then Taylor Gray is the driver on the bubble, 371 points back of Justin Allgaier. And only 12 points behind him is Rajah Caruth, who's obviously going from ride to ride. And then the young Brent Cruz, who actually missed a couple races this season because he was too young. He's 15 points outside of the chase at the moment in 14th. And then we look at the Cup Series standings as that lead is beginning to shrink. Tyler Reddick still leads the standings, but he's only 97 now in front of Hamlin. Still a huge gap, but it is shrinking. And then third in points is Ryan Blaney, 174 points behind Reddick. And then we look at the bubble battle. We have Brad Keselowski, 310 points back of the points lead, 13th in points. 14th in points, we have Chase Briscoe, 314 points back. And then Bubba Wallace is free fall, and he's free falled all the way down to 15th in points. Not too long ago, he was in the top three in standings. Now he's back in 15th, 319 points back of his teammate Reddick. And then on the bubble, we have Austin Cindric, who's 351 points behind Tyler Reddick. And then just outside looking in, 17th in the standings, we have Ryan Preece, who's only 2 points on the outside. And then we have three-time champion Joey Logano, 18th in the standings, 9 points behind his teammate Austin Cindric, just outside. All right, now that we're done with the top 10 results and the points update, let's actually talk about the Craftsman Truck Series in Nashville. Well, Lebanon, Tennessee, Nashville Super Speedway. And Layne Riggs just put on another dominating performance, I'd say, in this race. Just dominated from start to finish. He was able to do the rowdy bow 2 straight weeks. But there was a great battle at the end of this thing. Of course, Rajah Caruth, who won this race last year for Spire in the number 71 HendrickCars.com Chevrolet Silverado. And then this week, he was driving the number 7 HendrickCars.com Chevrolet Silverado and almost went back-to-back. Of course, this race was on Kyle Busch's schedule for Spire Motorsports, so Rajah stepped into the ride, and I appreciate Rajah doing that as a member of Rowdy Nation. I do greatly appreciate him doing that. And he almost got the win. He got set up with a great strategy, got track position near the end of this thing. In the second half of this race, looked like he had a good shot at winning. We had a good battle between him and Layne Riggs at the end of the race, and it just Rajah wasn't able to do enough. And Layne Riggs goes back-to-back, 2 straight weeks with a win. Of course, winning at Charlotte and then now winning at Nashville Super Speedway. And now looking at potentially making it 3 in a row with Michigan this upcoming weekend. And I want to get the boys' thoughts on Rajah and Layne Riggs' battle. And of course, Layne Riggs just dominating. And has Layne Riggs cemented himself as the championship favorite? And I guess I'll start with Tyler on this one. Layne Riggs goes back to back. Rajah puts on a good battle. I know we're all big fans of Rajah here on this show. But is Layne Riggs like the championship contender? I think it's him versus Honeycutt. I would give an outside shot to maybe Chandler Smith. But I think this is going to be Layne Riggs versus Caden Honeycutt all the way down to Miami in November. What are your thoughts on that, Tyler?
And Layne Riggs has got this in the bag, if you ask me. The kid's absolutely killing it. I mean, if he's not first, he's second. He's right there. So, I mean, if there's anybody that has got it locked down right now, it'd be him.
Yeah, Layne Riggs is just getting the finishes. I think Caden Honeycutt is showing more speed than Layne Riggs, like more consistent speed, if that makes sense. I think he's on a consistent basis. He's faster than Layne Riggs, but Layne Riggs is finishing the job. Like he's finishing these races perfect. You can tell he's been around for a couple years now. Obviously, he's not like a wily veteran or anything like that. He's still very young, but he's been around for a couple years now, and he's just really putting it all together week in and week out. And he's the more consistent finisher, while Caden Honeycutt has the more consistent speed and we'll have to see if that levels more as we go throughout the season. I'm still feeling Honeycutt. That also might be because I am a big Honeycutt fan. We'll be honest about that. But I'm still feeling Honeycutt to win the championship. But I think it's him versus Layne Riggs. When we get to, let's put it this way. When we go to Miami in the fall, I think there's going to be only 2 drivers heading into Miami for the Truck Series that have a chance at that championship that are points eligible. And that's going to be Caden Honeycutt and Layne Riggs. What are your thoughts on all this, Cory? Layne Riggs able to get the win over Rajah Caruth, and has he cemented himself as the championship favorite?
I would say so. I mean, points wise, obviously not, but Layne Riggs has just shown that he can be that guy. Like last Friday, he was that guy. Like he got put in a bad situation and raced his way through it when people thought he wasn't going to. So I know I am a big fan of Layne Riggs. I think you hit the nail on the head again with saying the 3 that I think are going to do it. Caden Honeycutt, or be in the argument, Caden Honeycutt, Layne Riggs, and Chandler Smith. It's going to be one of those 3, but my betting favorite to me without the points lead is Layne Riggs, just because he might not even be in the best equipment week to week, but he's going to find a way to finish top 3, top 5, or fight for the win when he shouldn't be. So I know I'm a fan of Layne Riggs, and yeah, I think I would like to see him win the championship. I think that'd be a cool, emotional championship win.
Yeah, it would definitely be cool to say Layne Riggs win the championship. And the main reason I personally would say that, he's been around for a couple years now. He's one of the more emotionally invested drivers, I would say. He really wears his emotion on his sleeve. You can tell that he really cares about this. He grew up in NASCAR. Of course, his dad is Scott Riggs, who was in NASCAR for many years and he's still at the track from time to time. I remember seeing him at Phoenix, passing by him. I walked past him and I immediately was like, wait, was that Scott Riggs? And it was definitely Scott Riggs. I didn't want to bother him, but I did see him once at Phoenix, and the whole family's very invested. So I think it would be a good story for Layne Riggs to do it. But at the same time, I think it would be a great story for Cade Honeycutt to take it all as well, with his sim racing background, him not coming from necessarily a lot of money like these other guys. So I think both would be very interesting to see what they're able to do. And someone like Layne Riggs, if you're reading the rumors, someone like Layne Riggs is looking at potentially getting a Cup Series ride here soon with Front Row Motorsports. So a lot on the table for these guys. But let us know your thoughts in the comments. How do you feel about Layne Riggs' performance at Nashville? That battle he had with Rajah was a great one. I kind of wanted Rajah to win that, just that way he would have smashed the guitar, because I know he would have smashed the guitar in honor of Rowdy, which would have been awesome. But nonetheless, we had a fantastic battle at the end of this thing. Layne Riggs does the bow 2 straight weeks. So let us know your thoughts on that battle we had at the end. But of course, also let us know, who do you think is the championship favorite at this point? Is it Layne Riggs? Is it Caden Honeycutt? Some people might say Chandler Smith even, because Chandler Smith had a really hot start of the year. But let us know your thoughts in the comments. Now let's move on to the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series, because we did have the O'Reilly Series also racing this past weekend in Nashville Super Speedway. And I'd say the best car throughout the race, and probably the dominant car, and probably should have been the winning car if a couple of things went a little bit differently, and that is Jesse Love. I think Jesse Love had the best car in the field. We saw it in his interview. He wasn't too happy. He was pretty emotional in his interview, and I get it to a certain degree. I mean, you can't go that far, I guess, sometimes, but I get it to a certain degree. He almost won Watkins Glen, and it got taken from it. Well, he messed up, plus it got taken from him at the very end. And then this one seemed like it was completely out of his control. Just a couple of races over the last couple of weeks that Jesse Love has been unable to finish the deal and just couldn't get the win. I think he finished like 16th or 17th, so he didn't even get that great of a finish in this event. Still obviously near the top of the standings. He's in the championship hunt and everything. But I want to get the boys' thoughts on this, because I think this was a big talking point in our group chat on Saturday night. I don't think I got too involved with this conversation, but I did see Cory and Tyler talk quite a bit about Jesse Love and Jesse Love's interview post-race. And yeah, Jesse Love, I felt like, had the dominant car. And if he didn't get a loose wheel, I think he's probably going to win this race. And I think it would have been a very emotional victory for not just him, but for Richard Childress Racing with everything with Rowdy, Kyle Busch. I think that probably would have been a pretty good moment. Not sure if he would have smashed the guitar or not, but I think it would have been a pretty good moment seeing Love win it, but he was unable to get the job done. I want to get Cory's thoughts on this one. Cory, how did we feel about Jesse Love's performance on Saturday? I thought he had the best car, had a loose wheel, which deterred him from winning the race. And then also, how did you feel about his post-race interview and maybe his post-race interviews in general? Because I think he's given a couple of similar interviews at the end of these races at this point.
Man, I think it sucks for him because it was out of his control. He had easily had the best car that day. Like, he was going to dominate that race. Even after he had that situation happen, he went on a strategy where he had to be on bad tires compared to everyone else, and he still didn't go a lap down. And I was sitting there wondering how he got a 16th place finish because he was put in a bad spot, but that's just how good his car was and how well he managed the tires. So I understand his frustration and his emotion. I will say, I feel like a majority of the NASCAR community, maybe he's a little too emotional, too whiny, but I don't know, man. In a NASCAR day and age where everyone is a robot, and I want to thank my sponsors. That is all. Thank you. On to the next race. Like, it's good to show emotion, even if it's emotion where you're sad and emotion where, I mean, most people handle it just like on to the next week. We learn from mistakes. Sometimes he's young, he's just going to show his emotions. His emotions are on his sleeve. So, I mean, I'm not too critiquey of that. It's more just, he's just young. He's going to grow past it. He's going to have races that are even worse than this. Finishing second, dominating race. He's going to have races where it's like this. He just needs to learn to, be a little stronger, I guess. But I don't know. Jesse Love was put in a shitty situation.
Yeah, I would have to agree with a lot with a lot of what you said there, Cory. Because am I necessarily the biggest fan of him having these interviews? No, not necessarily. I'm not necessarily the biggest fan, but I much rather have that sort of interview where he's showing his passion. He shows how passionate he is about this, how much he wants it. He's clearly showing that. Does it come off a little bit whiny? Yeah, I'm not going to sit here and act like it doesn't, but I'd rather have that sort of interview where a guy is just, you can tell how passionate he is. You can tell how much he wants it. I'd much rather have that interview than like, I feel like I always have to call this guy out, most popular driver, and people hate me for it, Chase Elliott. I'd rather have that sort of interview than a Chase Elliott interview, because Chase Elliott, I could see Chase Elliott dominating the entire race, leads every single lap. Then all of a sudden he loses it on the last lap and finishes like second or third. Chase Elliott's going to go to the mic. It's like, yeah, guys gave me a good car. Sponsors were I appreciate all the sponsors. Just couldn't get the job done today. Like, I'd much rather have what Jesse gives than that, personally. I think everybody also has different feels and different things that they want from drivers. Because we, of course, seen a lot of the Bubba Wallace hate over the number of years with Bubba Wallace. Because Bubba Wallace used to give these very emotional, down on yourself sort of interviews. I think over the last week or two, he's kind of falling back into that because of how everything's been going for him. But that's a completely different topic, I'd say. But at the same time, it's kind of the same thing. So I'd rather have what Jesse Love did compared to what like a Chase Elliott may do, or some of these other cookie cutter drivers like Cory is saying here. But Tyler, I'm very curious on your opinion on this. How did you feel about Jesse? First of all, Jesse Love's race. I felt like he had the dominant car, probably would have won the race if he doesn't get a loose tire. Maybe Allgaier gives him a run for his money at the end of this thing. I personally don't think so, but maybe, who knows? We never got to see that. But how do you feel about, first of all, his performance, and also how do you feel about his, not just this post-race interview, but some of the recent post-race interviews he's had? I'm mainly referencing, of course, Watkins Glen.
So with him, it's hard because the dude's a great driver. He's a great wheelman. When he's behind the wheel, he can absolutely drive whatever is given to him and pull it off. I mean, RCR is not pumping out the greatest stuff right now. So the fact that he's able to do what he's doing with the equipment he's got is shown greatly, right? But my problem is every single time he gets out of that car, if he didn't win, and sometimes even when he wins, it just feels babyish. It feels so just emotionally overran and just childlike, and it's very hard. So I completely can agree where everybody gets irritated with Chase, because Chase has no feelings and he's always just like, great car, great day, the boys tried hard.
I will say with Jesse Love, it's kind of hard to feel bad for him in any way after coming off of a championship that he didn't deserve. If
Absolutely,
saying that
and that's
respectfully.
that too, but the biggest thing for me is his attitude and the way he handles himself when he gets out of that car. If he didn't have the greatest day ever, then he's not happy. And even when he had the greatest day ever, I still haven't seen him happy. And that's where I'm like, I haven't seen him over the top happy. Yeah, I did it. Like, and he doesn't get mad either. So if you ask me, if the team cost me over a loose wheel, I'm gonna get out the car and be like, yeah, loose wheel cost me. That's what it was for today. Like, channel your inner Kyle Busch and call somebody out or something, dude. Like, this is getting annoying very quickly. I
I
don't
hear what you're
agree with
saying.
Chase by any means, but at least pull something out of your ass and pretend you give a little bit more than tears.
I hear what you're saying. You want him to turn that sadness and those tears into more like anger and passion. I'm kind of hearing what you're saying there.
Yeah, yeah. Open it up a little bit. Man, put some manly energy in there. Put some like rah, rah. That's what we're here for. Like, we're NASCAR fans because when you're pissed off, you're gonna go punch somebody in the face. You're gonna throw your helmet at your car. Like, there's gonna be things gonna be flying. People are gonna know that you're mad, not just cry. Like, are you crying because you're hurt? Are you crying because you don't feel good? Are you crying because something happened? Or are we crying because your car wasn't good enough? Like, what the fuck are we doing?
I hear you. I hear you. It's a valid point for sure. I agree. That's why I haven't been like too harsh on people that are getting after Jesse because I do agree. I do think his interview did come off a bit whiny, but at the same time, I appreciate the emotion. I appreciate the passion, and it also is entertainment as well. I'd rather have, like I said, I'd much rather have that. Like I think we all agree, we don't like Chase's interviews. We might like Chase, but we don't really like his interviews and the way he handles himself at the end of these races because he's boring, doesn't show emotion. And this is what we like to see, emotion, but sometimes it might not always be the right thing. I do agree with what you're saying, Tyler, that I would
And I
like.
do want to
Yeah, continue.
I do want to give a little bit of leeway though to Bubba and him as well. Like, the times where they're going through right now are very emotional. They both like he, let's be real, love drives for RCR, so there's a lot happening at the shop. There's a lot of emotion there around his team and things like that.
Yeah.
Bubba as well. I mean, like, he really, like, we should give him some leeway. Had some really hard emotional things coming up, but at the same time, like, 1 2 weeks, boys. Let's get this back on the road. Let's get some more better energy going because the crying ain't gonna work.
Yeah, I agree. Ain't what's the saying? It's like it ain't worth nothing to cry over spilled milk. Is that what the saying is? Something like that.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. But that's kind of what's happening here. I like the passion, but I kind of agree with you. I kind of want the passion to be more anger, I guess, a little more fire under the hood. Like, I get it. I get what you're putting down, Tyler. I get what you're putting down. But let us know your thoughts in the comments. How do you feel about Jesse Love's performance at Nashville Super Speedway? And also, how do you feel about not just his post-race interview at Nashville, but some of his recent ones? I'm mainly, of course, talking about Watkins Glen, where he just seems so dejected and down on himself at the end of these races. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. All right, let's now get down to the end of this race. And once Jesse Love got really taken out of this, it looked like that the guy that was probably going to end up winning this race was Justin Allgaier. And then different strategy calls came into play, and it ended up setting up Brent Cruz with an opportunity to potentially get his first ever win in the O'Reilly Series and in any of the three national NASCAR series. With around 15, 16 laps to go, Allgaier was able to make the pass on him. Some aggressive racing, of course, by both, especially Brent Cruz, trying to get his first career win. Luckily, they were able to keep it straight, keep it going, and overall, just a good race. And Allgaier just gets another dub. I was talking about with the Truck Series that Layne Riggs might be the championship favorite. There's no question. Justin Allgaier is the championship favorite. And the only driver that I can see beating Justin Allgaier for the championship this year is Justin Allgaier. That's the only guy I can see beating him this year. It's just, he's so good. He is so dominant. He has so much experience. Apparently he was thinking about retiring at the end of this year, and his wife was like, "Why would you retire? You're still kicking ass." So, Allgaier, don't expire anytime soon. I see him coming back next year and competing once again. But I think this is the championship for him to lose, and once again gets another victory, gets the win at Nashville, gets himself another guitar. But I have to note this one thing. Allgaier, you already have 2 guitars at home. Smash that guitar, man. I was so disappointed about that. I like how the whole crew and everything did the bow. I thought that was cool. But come on, man. You already have 2 guitars at home. Smash this one. Please, for the Rowdy fans. Like, geez. I was about to go into my closet and grab my own guitar and smash it on the concrete. Because, damn it, I wanted a guitar smash so bad. But overall, good finish to the race. Allgaier gets another win, and he cements himself as the championship favorite, but we've already known that for a couple of months now at this point. I want to send it right to the Gator fan himself, the little Gator super fan, as I call him. Tyler, Justin Allgaier does it again, man. He's just untouchable, it seems like. It doesn't seem like anybody can really beat him. How did we feel about him winning at Nashville, that late battle he had with Cruz? And then, of course, is he going to be the champion or what?
And he's definitely winning that championship. Every time he wins a race, I go, I really need to book some tickets to Miami because we're running out of time. Because, yeah, no, I feel like this is 100% a championship year. Like you said, it's his to lose. There's no track that he doesn't know. So at this point, if he can't pull it off, it's his own fault. So it's 100% his race. And I don't think anybody has anything to give for him.
Yeah, I don't really think anybody has anything for him. If you asked me a couple of weeks ago, I would have given a outside shot to Creed because Creed was having such a strong start of the year. But the last couple of weeks, Sheldon Creed hasn't looked as fast, and his teammate Sam Mayer has kind of picked up the pace. So they've kind of flip-flopped over the last couple of weeks. So at this point, it's all Allgaier. It's all Lil Gator at this point. It's not a one-race championship anymore. It's a 10-race series to finish off the season. And I just, over 10 races, I just don't see anybody beating Allgaier unless Allgaier shoots himself in the foot. Like, I don't see it happening. But Cory.
And shout out to his pastor. Hold on. Shout out to his pastor because he's going to keep that boy in the car because he called him out of nowhere and said, the only way you can win back-to-back championships is win the first one.
I like that. It's the only way you can win back-to-back championships by winning the first one. Don't forget about the second one. You got to win the second one too. But Justin Allgaier, Cory, what were your thoughts at the end of this race? Justin Allgaier was able to beat the young Brent Cruz, who comes short of winning his first career race. And does anybody have anything at all for Lil Gator?
I think Brent Cruz was very impressive. I think he found a way to race Allgaier as clean as possible, even though he was seeing his first win, like go out of his hands, So like that was an awesome battle for the few laps that they battled for. But man, I texted the group chat a second ago. I was like, I think the 3 championship winners all won at Nashville. And Allgaier's probably the safest bet. Thank God there's a point reset for the rest of the field when the chase starts. But he's the most experienced, basically with his experience, the most talented and the best equipment. So, and he has 180-point lead right now. It's ridiculous. Even if he had a 50-point lead, I think we'd all give the same answer right now. So, yeah, there's no one stopping Little Gator but himself. 100%.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you. I don't really see anybody necessarily stopping Little Gator. And he has such a huge points lead. The points lead he has right now would be a big points lead even in the Winston Cup standings. Like when we had the old point system back in the day, it'd still be a pretty big points lead. But with this point system we have right now, he could take off a couple of weeks. He can go on vacation if he wants to. He's like, hey, Junior, I'm going to go hang out in Cancun for the next 2 weeks. He's going to go to Cancun for 2 weeks. He's still going to come back probably with at least a 50-point lead. It's insane what he's doing. He's at the top of his game. And once again, I don't, at this point, it's way too late in his career, but I would love to see him get in a quality ride in the Cup Series. I wish the rumor was that Allgaier was going to the 48 car personally, because he's just, I would love to see him at the Cup Series level. He's never really had a great opportunity, and just he killed it. He killed it once again this past weekend in Nashville, and he's just going to keep on keeping on. Of course, this week it's an off week for the O'Reilly Series. They won't be in Michigan, but I think they do come back for Pocono the next week, and we'll have to see if Allgaier is able to get the job done there. And he's clearly the championship favorite. And Brent Cruz, I do like what you had to say about Brent Cruz, because I do think Brent Cruz has a very bright future in this sport. And I would probably, I don't think anybody has anything for Allgaier personally, but if I had to pick a second guy, it would honestly probably be Brent Cruz, because all you can go is up. All you can go is up, and he's in that Joe Gibbs Racing number 19. I have a lot of good feelings about Brent Cruz, and I'm excited to see him on the road courses too, because he's a good road course racer. I have very high hopes for that kid. But the main story here is Lil Gator getting another win, and once again proves that he is the championship favorite. But let us know your thoughts in the comments about the O'Reilly Series race and the finish that we had with Lil Gator and Brent Cruz. And do you think anybody, and I mean anybody, has anything for Lil Gator? All right, now let's move on to our Cup Series discussion. And first thing I want to really talk about, it's going to be kind of like a little general discussion here, but I really want to talk about these brake rotors, because we had brake rotors go boom in this race. I don't know what was going on. I'm not sure exactly. I don't know if it was set up or if it was stuff they got. I thought it was just really a Chevy issue for a while there. And it looked like Buescher also had an issue. We had Zilich, Ross, and Dinger all have a brake rotor go boom in the exact same spot going into turn one. It was just real interesting. I don't think I've ever seen something like that, even at like a Martinsville or Bristol or one of these road courses where you use heavy brakes. Even at those sort of tracks, I don't think I've really, I mean, I've seen brake rotors explode. I'm not acting like I've never seen a brake rotor explode. I've seen brake rotors explode, but to have this many in one race, I just find very interesting that we had this happen in one race. And of course, look at Hocevar. Hocevar's brake rotor didn't explode, but it was red hot. His brakes were red hot like 30, 40 laps into the race. It was already like 30, 40 laps into the race that Chili's brake rotor looked like it was 500 laps of Martinsville deep. It was crazy. I didn't quite understand what was going on with the brake rotors, and I think it was one of the bigger stories all day. Of course, we had tire fall off throughout the day. We had some good racing. We had the slight rain delay. It looked like it was a good show. Prime once again did great. Mark Martin, I love Mark. I love that man so much. Mark Martin's the best. So everything was great. I want to get the boys' thoughts, not just on the brake rotors, but if anything really stood out to them in the race. I'll start with Tyler on this one. We'll talk about Shane Van Gisbergen and of course the finish here in a moment. But what were your thoughts on these brake rotor explosions, and did anything really stand out to you in this race?
First off, I just want to start by saying I loved it. It's been a long time since we've seen some pretty consistent part failures in NASCAR, and I'm enjoying that because part failures are part of racing, right? Like it used to be back in the day, you weren't even sure if your motor was going to make it the whole time, so you didn't even want to run all your practice laps. So like it's a whole different world we're living in now. I mean, everything's so just well put together that these cars really don't fall apart. So when they do, I get very excited. I'm just going to start there. From what I understand, it was a cooling and heating problem. They used a massive brake package that they don't normally use. And then from what I was understanding, the cars that were exploding had almost the entire air open. So it was just extreme heat to extreme cold and pretty much made those brake rotors explode. The best part is nobody warned the teams of that. So nobody gave them a heads up and was like, hey, if you get too aggressive with your air openings and things like that, like that's what saved Carson was when the pit crew, when he went in for the first time and the pit crew missed the tape, like he was supposed to pull the tape completely off the car and he completely missed it and Carson started freaking out. It actually saved his brakes because it made it to where they didn't explode because he actually kept enough heat in there instead of extreme cooling. Funny enough.
That makes a lot of sense. Like you have like the hot and the cold, and it's trying to expand and shrink the metal at the same time. So it's just like, and eventually it's just gonna pop. It's just gonna pop right open. So that actually makes a lot of sense. We got we got
Yep.
we got we got Bill Nye the Tyler guy over here. What were you about to say?
I was about to say, and for Mark, man, it was absolutely awesome to see Mark back on the TV. I wish they'd get him on there more often.
Oh yeah.
But I do have to say, I wish somebody would lift his damn chair. I don't know who the hell set him up in that chair, but they made him looking like just the tiniest little midget
was
guy
tiny.
because his chair was just lowered to the ground. They didn't lift his chair.
Well, he is Mark the Kid Martin.
He is, but at least lift his damn chair. As somebody that is over here as a tiny little man, I am 5'3" myself. You better lift my damn chair.
That's funny. I just noticed that. That's funny. I didn't really think about that, but yeah. But yeah, Mark's a short guy, and they had him sitting short on the prime desk. But I liked what Mark brought to everything. And now I'll send it to Cory. Cory, what did we think about these brake rotors going boom? And also, anything really stand out to you in this race per se?
I think it made the racing entertaining. I mean, like Tyler said, seeing equipment failures isn't the norm every week. So having a week or two where that happens always makes it more entertaining. Um, I said it did add a lot of length to a race that was already delayed. So, but yeah, it definitely seemed like a Chevy issue. It was very surprising to hear SVG's radio when he saw Chastain and Zilich lose their rotors, and he's like, "Well, now I'm scared." And then they were like, "Oh, we have a total different package than them. Don't worry." That's kind of like crazy to think about in the shop. And obviously, the Chevys have new bodies. They're testing stuff. Like maybe that was it, but like nobody at Hendrick had rotor problems. Nobody at Spire, I mean, besides Hocevar, it was glowing too much, had problems. Like it just seemed maybe the communication wasn't all the way there. And at the very end of the race, Busher had an issue, which killed Larson's day. But like it was awesome to see, like from an entertainment perspective, but also seems like Chevy didn't trickle down that information to the other teams. Like Trackhouse to me is a big team, but to have 2 out of the 3 cars lose it's kind of insane.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy to see to have two Trackhouse cars have those issues. So I was waiting on the other shoe to fall with Shane Van Gisbergen, and I forget if you sent it to the group chat or if I just saw it on X what he was saying on the radio. I was like, "Don't worry, we're good. We have a different setup. We're fine." And luckily enough, because Shane was having a fantastic day, and that would have really sucked to see that happen with him. But yeah, just a weird thing that we saw at Nashville Super Speedway. But let us know your thoughts in the comments. How did you feel about the brake rotors going boom? Maybe how did you feel about Mark Martin on the panel for Prime in Nashville? Who do we have this week? Does anybody know who we have this week by chance on top of your head?
I'll go see.
Okay. All good. But yeah, let us know your thoughts for Prime and Mark Martin and everything down in the comments. Now let's get to our next talking point here, and that is Shane Van Gisbergen, SVG. Man, this guy, he's an oval guy, isn't he? He's an oval master, I could say. He's mastering the ovals right in front of our eyes, and I'm loving every minute of it. He looks good. I think I said it a couple of weeks ago. Shane is going to get an oval win very, very soon, and I'm going to stick by that. He's looking great. He's looking fantastic. We need drivers like Shane having this success, not just because he's an international driver, because I think that's what a lot of people would immediately point towards. Shane Van Gisbergen, he's known around a lot, not just Australia, but in New Zealand, but he's known throughout a good portion of the world, one of our more well-known drivers worldwide. But also just his personality. He brings such a personality to it. Also that Red Bull connection, having sponsors like Red Bull and Victory Lane, I think is a great thing, not just a good thing. I think it's a great thing. And of course, all of his other sponsors like Wendy's, WeatherTech, and all that. But Red Bull being a big time international brand would be great. I'm loving what I'm seeing. He clearly has just so much natural raw talent, maybe even more natural raw talent than I even thought. Because the fact that he's picked up ovals this quickly. He hasn't been in the States all that long. He's only been here for a couple of years now. And the fact that he's obviously not like top tier on ovals yet, but I think he's going to get an oval win this year. I think he's going to get an oval win before the year is over and done with. Personally, he just looks really good. He's the best. He's the best driver at Trackhouse right now, and that says a lot. I think Trackhouse is struggling as a whole right now, and the fact that he's outperforming Ross Chastain, and I consider Ross Chastain one of the most talented drivers in the Cup Series. The fact that he is outperforming Connor Zilisch as much as he is, it just says a lot. It says how good this guy really is. This Kiwi that we have in our midst, SVG, or as Joey Logano would call him, Hamburger. I can't help but be extremely impressed by what he brings to the table. I want to start with Cory on this one. Cory, SVG leads laps at Nashville, runs top 5, top 10, pretty much all race long, ends up getting a 5th place finish. Also had top 5 bets from FanDuel, freaking not paid out for a couple of days there. They just paid him out yesterday. FanDuel fucking around and finding out. Over the last couple of days, I've been seeing them getting ran into the ground on X over the last couple of days. But SVG gets a top 5, a great performance in Nashville. And Cory, how do we feel about Shane Van Gisbergen's progress on ovals?
It is awesome to see, dude. Like, I think we all agree that he's probably the best road course racer we've ever seen. Like, I know
In
this
NASCAR,
car is in NASCAR, yeah. This car is obviously an advantage for him compared to what he's used to, but it doesn't explain the huge dramatic difference he has every time we go to a road course. And then to see where he started on ovals, when he got a top 20, you were like, dang, he had a good week. And now he's sitting there with worse tires than Kyle Larson, holding Kyle Larson off. That was an incredible move because you saw that, okay, he has it now. Like, that was a I approved it moment. Like, even though it was just a glimpse, it could be the car for that week, it still shows that he has it, right? And that's what we need to see. It starts off by getting a top 5, and then it starts off, oh, well, he's consistently running in the top 10 every single week at an oval, to just have one good restart and win a race. It's the writing on the wall is there. The chance of him winning an oval this year or in the next calendar year is skyrocketing up.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. He's just looking amazing. I'm not going to go as far to say that he's going to be a championship contender at some point. Definitely not this year, but if he keeps on going down this road, you're going to catch me maybe next year saying that he's a championship contender if he keeps on doing what he's doing. And it reminds me so much of Marcus Ambrose. Like, not just because they came from the supercars background and came from the same part of the world, but I saw this sort of progress with Marcus Ambrose. Maybe not as quickly. It took Marcus Ambrose more time to get better at ovals than what SVG is doing, which shows how talented Shane Van Gisbergen is, because Marcus Ambrose wasn't no slouch. He was a great racer himself. But I'm just seeing these two drivers pretty much going down the same path like right now he's going down the same path that Ambrose did. I really wish Ambrose stuck around for a couple more years, because I really think Ambrose could have gotten oval wins. He was good at a couple of different racetracks, and what I'm seeing from SVG right now is just reminding me so much of that. So I would definitely keep an eye out for Shane. Honestly, I'm going to keep an eye out for him when we get to Bristol here in a couple of months. I really think that might be the place where we see him win his first oval race. That's kind of showing my hand a little bit early on what I'm feeling when we get down to that point. But I'm just so confident in this guy. I love this guy. I love every interview he has to give. He's one of the parts of our sport currently that could really help lift up our sport. Obviously, people are going to immediately say Cletus is our savior, and Cletus is part of that. Cletus is definitely part of that, and of course Squirrel McNutt. They're all part of that for sure. But Shane is also a big part of that as well. Zilisch and some of these younger guys like Zilisch and Cruz and Heim and some of these younger Jesse Love. Some of these younger guys are part of that too, that are helping lift up the future of this sport. And if we continue to see a driver like Shane Van Gisbergen have success, not just in NASCAR, not just on the road courses, but if he starts winning on the ovals, we'll have even more international appeal, which is something I am craving. I know this is an American motorsport and it's mainly been American, but I do want more international drivers, more international sponsors, more international influences in our sport, because it will help lift our sport even more, not just talent wise, but viewership wise, money wise. It lifts it lifts everything, and I would love to see that. I would just love to see that. I want to get Tyler's opinion on all this as well. Tyler, Shane Van Gisbergen, SVG. How are how are we feeling about him?
Man's killing it. I mean, like you said, he's doing better than Ross. He's doing better than Connor. He's doing better than most of the field. I mean, like,
Yep.
it's insane with what he's out there doing. So it's what we need. We need a little bit more following everywhere we can get viewership. It doesn't matter where it comes from. I mean, most of these people that watch NASCAR, if they're from another country and things like that, they're big fans of what we're doing anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So I'm excited. I'm excited for the international appeal to come through a little bit more for sure. And I'm more excited for Shane, man. It's got to feel nice to know that he didn't just give up his whole life, come over here to be a 32nd place car. Like, that's embarrassing for anybody. So, it feels good for him to be out there and actually be competitive.
Yeah, because that obviously had to be a thought going into his mind when he came out here, was what happens if he doesn't succeed? He just runs away back to New Zealand and Australia, goes back to supercars, and probably goes back to kicking ass over there and being dominant over there once again. But I think this is just not just great for Shane, but it's just great for the sport. Because if, for example, some of these international drivers see Shane Van Gisbergen win at Bristol or win at one of these other ovals, they're immediately going to be like, so if Shane could go all the way to the States, win in a car that he doesn't really have experience in, race on a track type that he had zero experience on a couple of years ago, and go out there and win and beat some of the best in America, that opens up the door for more international drivers to come over to our sport, because they're going to be more willing to come over to our sport. Obviously, we have Kevin Magnussen showing up here in a couple of weeks for San Diego, which is cool. He's a Formula One driver. That's going to be cool to see him on the racetrack in San Diego, but getting even more guys out here in the States racing on ovals, especially. The road courses is one thing, but ovals is our bread and butter. That's what we're known for, is left turns, So I would love to see more international appeal. That would be great. And just Shane is one of the best personalities, if not the best. There's an argument to be made he's possibly the best. I'd probably give it to Noah Gragson. I think Noah Gragson has the best personality. But Shane's in front of the camera more, and he's always so happy. He's always you can tell how passionate he is. I love hearing him on the radio. He's the whole package, man. I love to see it. But let us know your thoughts in the comments. How do you feel about Shane Van Gisbergen's improvement on ovals? Do you think he'll ever win on an oval in the Cup Series? And if you do, when do you think he's going to win? Do you think he's going to win this year, next year, year after that? Maybe even let us know what track you think will be his first oval victory. Let's get to the end of this race. It seemed like that the JGR cars and Toyota, and it's not just this week. I think Joe Gibbs Racing and the Toyota cars of 2311 Racing, I think Toyota in general, have overall been the stronger cars throughout the year. They clearly have something figured out at Toyota over Chevrolet and Ford, and they were just once again dominant this past weekend. Denny Hamlin had his moment in the sun. Christopher Bell had his moment in the sun. Briscoe looked really strong. Reddick looked good, a lot of Toyotas looking good, but we ended up having an epic finish to this thing, as we had a late caution setting up a green-white checkered finish where we had an epic Joe Gibbs Racing battle. I don't know if Joe Gibbs is watching this. I don't know if Coach is watching this, because I was immediately thinking like, Coach, the heartache that Coach must be feeling right now, because I thought that obviously they didn't wreck, but I thought for a second they were all going to wreck. All three of them were just going to wreck out. I think SVG was fourth at the time. When they were racing three wide. Obviously SVG finished fifth, but at the time I think he was fourth. So who knows what would have happened. But we had an epic battle at the end of this race with Briscoe, Hamlin, and Bell. And Hamlin ended up getting the upper hand to get another victory on the season, getting the win with Progressive. He did his rowdy bow. I appreciate the rowdy bow, but that was definitely the worst rowdy bow I've seen all weekend. Very half-assed, but I appreciate it nonetheless. Hamlin, you know I love you. But what a finish. What a freaking finish to the end of this thing. Briscoe, Bell, and Hamlin able to race cleanly but aggressive, all going for the win, all going out there to be the winner for Joe Gibbs Racing, and it ended up being Dennis the Menace who gets another victory on the year. Potentially can get his first championship this year. I hope he can get it done. We'll have to see if he does get it done, though. I want to get the boys' thoughts on this. I'll start with Tyler on this one. How did we feel about the battle at the end of this race? Because I was so in tune to the end of this race. I was, as being a Joe Gibbs Racing fan for my whole entire life, I was very worried that all three of these drivers were going to just wreck each other at the end of this race. But we ended up getting a great finish between teammates, and Denny Hamlin gets the victory.
It was one hell of a finish. The coolest part of it is you got to see the veteran driver really school two young kids that are great drivers. I mean, Chase Briscoe and
They're not kids.
Bell are they're kids compared to Denny Hamlin.
True.
They're children compared
Briscoe's
to Denny
going
Hamlin.
bald.
Yeah, so am I, but that don't mean shit. So for real though, they're kids when it comes to being compared to Denny. So it was cool to watch a veteran driver really take some kids and school them in absolutely everything they do. Because if it would have been anybody else in the field, those two drivers could have easily drove away from anybody else. But it being Denny made it to where it was actually a battle, and he used them against each other to actually win the race. So it was one hell of a finish, and I'm not even that big of a fan of Toyota. So
yeah, and it's funny because Denny Hamlin ended up winning the race because of a late restart, which is funny because at the beginning of the race, and I forgot to even mention this earlier, he completely jumped at the start of this race. I love that meme he posted. I think it's the dictator when he starts running and then shoots the gun and then everybody else goes.
yeah.
Like it was, I don't know what was with that restart at the start, Tyler. But he went from having a horrible restart at the end to winning it on a late race restart, which is just crazy. What did you think about that restart at the beginning of this race? Because that was gnarly, and the fact that he came back and won it on an epic restart as well, which is just awesome.
The best part is I believe he said on his podcast he missed the restart because he let some asshole get in his head. So that's the best part is he let some bet and I think it was a name rail bet or some shit get in his head about the restart and almost cost him the entire race. Just to watch him drive through the whole field again was something else. But that restart was absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, he ended up winning a bet with Tyler Reddick. Now on the right side on the name rail, it says Denny Bros, and it's stylized like the Mario Bros, like the Mario Brothers logo on the right side. So if Tyler Reddick wins, you got Denny Bros on a diecast. So we'll have to see what happens this upcoming week in Michigan. But Cory, how did we feel about the end of this race? We had Denny Hamlin win on a late race restart in epic fashion against his Joe Gibbs Racing teammates. And it's funny because he won on a late race restart on a green-white checkered. And at the beginning of this race, he jumped the start by around 3 or 4 miles.
That restart was hilarious because it's funny because a lap before that, Dale Jr. was like, hey, so what would you do if you had to start from the tail? Or what would it take to start from the tail? And he's like, double the purse. He's like, you know what, screw it, I'm going to do it anyways. You know, that's what I thought when I saw it. I was like, oh shit, he's going to do it anyways. But that was funny. That meme was hilarious. And then those last few laps were some of the best racing we've seen all year long. The race in its entirety, I mean, maybe there was a little too much cautions at one point, but the race in its entirety was awesome. Like I was glued to the screen. And that last restart was why NASCAR fans love restarts. It's just they went two people battling, not giving an inch, not racing each other hard. I mean, racing each other hard without wrecking each other.
Racing each other with respect.
Chase Briscoe. Exactly. Racing each other to so hard that Chase Briscoe sneaks in on the final lap and almost takes it, and then Christopher Bell overreacts and blocks him, and Denny just sneaks on by and gets the win. And I'm not like a huge fan of JGR. I'm not like a hater, But none of those 3 guys are one of my favorite guys. But that was just elite racing. That was entertainment. That was awesome. And yeah, that was one of my favorite races of the year easily. Made me stay up late, but one of my favorite races without a doubt.
Yeah, because that's also been a pretty big talking point over the last couple of days. Is should we have these Sunday night prime time races? I'm I'm personally for them, but this was a different case because we had it delayed by an hour. Ended up being a lot of cautions. We had brake rotors exploding all over the place. So maybe if he doesn't get delayed by an hour or however long it got delayed, if we don't have those brake rotors explode, maybe it doesn't end nearly as late. But I'm for it. I'm for it. I'm for these Sunday night races. I don't want them all the time. I don't want a bunch of Sunday night races. I prefer them on Saturday night personally, but a couple of Sunday night races thrown in there, especially if there's a holiday the next day on Monday, stuff like that. I'm all for it, and I'll send it right back to Cory real quick on that one. Cory, how do we feel about these prime time Sunday night races? Do you think they continue to have a spot in our sport, or do you think they should get rid of them?
I mean, as long as we don't have to deal with football, which
Oh
we
yeah,
don't,
for
right?
sure, yeah.
It Saturday night is when it should be. Or like you said, Sunday night Coke 600 with a holiday on the Monday. Like it did kind of suck because I have to wake up at 4 in the morning and I stayed up till what 11 or 12. And there's people on the
Boo!
East Coast that there's people that live on the East Coast that stayed up way later that still had to work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And fans that went to the racetrack that are live in the Nashville area that had to work the next day, maybe. I don't know. It it does suck from that perspective. TV, I know, doesn't care, so yeah, I'd prefer it to be Saturday nights. I also think it's kind of crazy to have 2 of your night races back to back and both of them be Sunday night. If you're gonna have night races, I'd like for you to like space them out more so we could like look forward to more races at night. But I think it's more of a scheduling issue. I'm fine with Sunday night. I prefer Saturday night, but as long as I wish they just didn't have 2 back to back and then we go 10 weeks without one.
Yeah, I agree with what you had to say about the Sunday night football. Because yeah, as long as it's not, because we ain't competing with Carrie Underwood in Sunday night football. We ain't doing that. We're not competing with that. So as long as it's not during football season, I'm perfectly fine with the Sunday night race. And I like a bunch of night races. I don't necessarily need them to have back to back. I'm not upset that they're back to back per se, but we don't necessarily need them back to back. I know that this was scheduled for to be a race that finished at night primarily because of just the time of the year that they're in Nashville. It's the beginning of June. It's really hot and humid there. So they're trying to do a solid for the fans. I know a couple of years ago, maybe it might have been even last year. I don't know if it was a couple of years ago or last year. They had one of these Nashville races during the day, and I heard it was hell in the stands because the sun just points right on the grandstands there at Nashville. So I think that's why they ended up doing a night race. But I do prefer Saturday night, but I don't mind an occasional Sunday night race, especially when it's a holiday weekend and there's something going on Monday. Kids are getting off of school, people don't got work on Monday. I think that's the best time to do a prime time Sunday night race, but I don't mind them. I don't really have too much of a problem with it. But the fact we had a rain delay, we ended up getting brake rotors exploding all over the place, so it ended up finishing a lot later than I think NASCAR and everybody expected or wanted. Tyler, what are your feelings about that? How do you feel about Sunday night prime time NASCAR?
I enjoy it. I mean, if you ask me, I push for more night races all the time. Constantly screaming about how Vegas and Phoenix should be night races. So, if you ask me, night races all the time. I don't give a shit.
There you have it, folks. Tyler don't give a fuck. There you got it. You
I
got it.
think, just to clarify, I completely agree with what Tyler's saying. I'm just saying if we're going to have 4 throughout the year or 5 max throughout the year, they shouldn't be back to back. That's all I'm saying. I would love for it to be 50-50, but now we have to go 2 months without a night race. I'm like, well, great. It's because we had them back to back.
And I can agree with that too. Like, spread it out a little bit. Like, it should be something a little bit more enjoying for everybody.
It should feel more special. I get it.
Yeah.
I get that. I get that sentiment for sure. If it, in a perfect world, I'd probably aim for like 8 to 10 night races a year. If we're in a perfect world, that's probably what I would want, because you got Daytona, you got Richmond. I would like Iowa. I think Iowa should be maybe under the lights. I think that would be pretty cool. I agree with you, Tyler. I would love to see Phoenix, and we've talked about this about 20 trillion times. I would love to see Phoenix and Vegas under the lights, but TV are like, fuck that, because it's a
Yeah, but they only paid millions and millions and millions of dollars for those lights. So let's use them.
I agree. I'm not. There's no disagreeing here, but TV has the number one input, and TV doesn't want a night race on the West Coast, because if it's starting at like 6 o'clock on Pacific time, that means it's starting at 9 o'clock on the East Coast. Which is interesting that I say that, because this week the IndyCar series, their race is starting on Sunday night at 9:30 on the East Coast. It's more of an international series than just American, so I guess they can maybe get away with that. But I found that quite interesting. I forget where they're racing this week, IndyCar is, but they're starting their race at 9:30 on Sunday night, and that's the planned start time. That's not like a delay or anything. It's the planned start time, which is crazy to me.
You know who would you know what network would put it at Phoenix as a night race and not give us issues? Prime.
You didn't even let me guess. You didn't even let me guess.
Don't even need to guess. It's Prime.
Oh, they could make more Saturday night cup races, dude. Why not? Like, if they're gonna complain about time and everything, like, dude, the NBA, and not comparing it to NBA, but the NBA has games that start at 11 p.m. Eastern. That means they end at like 1:30, 2.
Facts.
We don't have to go that late. But if we started at 6 or 5 o'clock on the West Coast, so 8 or 9 on the East Coast, yeah, we don't do it every week, obviously, but once or twice a year, come on. Like, there's no reason not to use Vegas lights and Phoenix lights. It's zero reason not to. Especially, and you're going to draw more fans. Who doesn't want to go to a Saturday night Las Vegas Cup race? It sells itself.
I personally feel like the very latest that you could start, and this is what NASCAR would be down for the Cup Series. I don't think they care much about the Trucks and O'Reilly Series viewership, because it's not going to take a big dip either way, because they only have so many viewers to begin with in those series. Even though O'Reilly has picked up in viewers quite a bit over the last couple of years, and Truck Series kind of has had its moments this season with viewership. I think the latest they would be willing to start a night race in the Cup Series on the West Coast would probably be like 4:30 or 5 o'clock. I really think that's the latest they'd be willing to start, and that race would probably finish under the lights, as long as it's a normal race and it doesn't go. As long as it's a normal race and we get a couple cautions here and there, it would probably finish under the lights, which I would be okay with. I really think that's the most they're willing to do, and they cut back on that. I think they explained not too long ago, maybe a couple months ago or like a year ago, why they cut back on the Saturday night races, and it's because of TV just doesn't see it as as viable as it used to be. It just doesn't get as many viewers as it used to. This and that, which I don't agree with. I think they should do it. I think they should do more night races. I think that's what they should do. And I think it's just mainly because of mainly Fox and NBC's perspective. I agree with you, Tyler. I think Prime is really willing to do whatever. You know, they just want to have fun. You know, they just want to give the fans a great product, which is something I greatly appreciate it. I still think Prime is doing by far the best. They're doing great so far. 2 races in, we're almost halfway already through Prime's coverage, which sucks to think about. But let us know your thoughts in the comments. How do you feel about primetime races? How do you feel about the end of this race with Denny Hamlin, Briscoe, Bell? Let us know your thoughts about all that down in the comments. Now that we're done with the weekend of racing, we do have a couple of news stories to go over. And this week, we're going to get into some silly season chatter, as we did have a couple of silly season news stories come out this week. And the biggest one for me, and I think for all of us would have to agree, it's about damn time. Heim time going full time. Cory Heim finally gets a full-time ride with 2311. In the initial announcement, it was announced that he'll race the 35. Hamlin clarified later that they're undecided on a number, so it might be the 35, might be the 67. Maybe Cory Heim gets a choice of his own number. Maybe he'll pick a different number or something like that. We'll have to see. So number is not official, but he will be racing the third 2311 car, which leaves Riley Herbst without a ride. Riley Herbst rumored to go to Legacy. I think Riley Herbst has proven this year that he is a Sunday guy. He's a Cup Series guy, so maybe he lands on his feet at Legacy or somewhere else, because I've definitely seen some heavy improvement. He's improved so much this season. He's having not an amazing year, but he's having a lot better of a year than he had last year. He's actually shown some speed in a couple places, so good on Riley. But if you're choosing between Riley Herbst and Cory Heim, Riley Herbst, I think the high end potential for Riley Herbst is that he ends up having. I think the ceiling for Riley Herbst is that he wins a couple of Cup Series races in his career, maybe even gets into the double digits. Maybe he gets like 10 or 15 races in his career. I think that's the ceiling for Riley Herbst, while the ceiling for Cory Heim is a Cup Series champion. And I don't think there was much of an argument to be made for that. You have to pick Cory Heim in this scenario, and that's what Hamlin, Michael Jordan, and everybody over at 2311 had decided, that they're going to be going with Cory Heim for the future. So Cory Heim racing full-time in 2027 for 2311 Racing. And I want to get the boys' thoughts on two things, and I'll start with Tyler on this one. Tyler, Heim time going full-time. How do we feel about that at 2311? And what is in the future for Riley Herbst? I personally think that he is a Cup Series guy. He is a Sunday guy. I don't think he's ever going to compete for a championship or anything like that, but I could see him getting a couple of wins in his career. I can see him being competitive. Maybe Legacy is in the future for him. What are your thoughts on Cory Heim and Riley Herbst in this silly season chatter?
When it comes to Heim time, it's about damn time, because we've been waiting entirely too long. So that guy is a Cup Series champion 100%. He is going to do amazing things once he gets settled into that car. No doubt. When it comes to Riley, it's hard, man. He's never gotten a real shot, it feels like. He feels like he's always gotten the worst car in the, like, even he might be on a decent team, but it's still going to be the worst car in the garage. So, like, I don't know. It's hard. It's very hard. He's got talent. He definitely has talent. I think Front Row Motorsports is a death sentence to anybody. So hopefully he doesn't end up there. I mean, if he ends up with Legacy, that's probably going to be the only spot that he actually ends up doing anything, and that's if Legacy gets the funding that they're supposedly going to get. So I don't know, man. It's a hard one. He's betting on a lot of things to go his way.
Yeah, it's gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard. I know he has the sponsorship backing, of course, with Monster Energy, Terribles, his family's gas station chain. They're getting more involved as well, it seems like. So he definitely has some sponsorship backing. So he has the money, he has the funds. I expect him to be a full-time driver in the Cup Series next year. I don't know if that's gonna be with Legacy, could be with Front Row. There's even possibility of Spire Motorsports being an option. Maybe even RCR. Who knows? I think there's a couple of options that could potentially be on the table for Riley Herbst. All I know is, if you asked me last year, I would say Riley Herbst is not ready for the Cup Series, this, that, and he wasn't. He wasn't ready last year, but he has proven this. He's obviously worked very hard on his craft. He has great teachers to teach him. Obviously, he has Tyler Reddick, who's probably the most, other than maybe Larson and Bell, probably the most well-rounded driver in all of NASCAR. Bubba Wallace, who's a very talented driver in his own right, especially at the super speedways and the D-shaped ovals. He's very talented at those tracks. And then Denny Hamlin, who's currently the best driver, best NASCAR driver, I should say, in our sport right now. He's having a great year. So he has a lot of people to teach him, and he's obviously picking some stuff up. He's been going into the Toyota Sim, and he's just looked so much better this year, and I've been very impressed on what he's been able to do personally. And I want to get Cory's thoughts on all this. I think we all feel the same way about Cory Heim, Cory, that Cory Heim is finally going full-time. It's about damn time. I think we all kind of feel the same about that. So give me your thoughts on Cory Heim, what you maybe expect from him over the next couple of years. And then what are your feelings on Riley Herbst? What do you think potentially is in the future for Riley?
1000% going to repeat exactly what you guys said. Well deserved. Time has deserved this ride for a while. It should have been Zilich or Heim for Rookie of the Year this year. Instead, we already know Rookie of the Year this year and Rookie of the Year next year. So, yeah, but well deserved. I think he said he wanted the number 25, but he realized that that was unavailable. So, I think now they're just like basically 35 or see if he wants something different is what he said in the conference. But yeah, well deserved. Can't wait to see it. I think he wins I think he wins one race in his rookie year. He's been
Easily.
in the top 10, leading some races. Like he's been incredible in the small amount of starts he's had and doing it as a rookie. Like I'm just going to say as a rookie, right? I know he raced some last year, but he's still basically a rookie to this series and he's in the top 10, top 5. That is like unheard of, especially if you like see Zilich right now. Zilich can't even fight for the top 10 right now. And that's nothing against him. And that just shows you how good he is and how good that 2311 equipment is, especially with Toyota having such an advantage right now. But then going to Riley Herbst, man, it's like a 180 from the Heim story because this is third year in the Cup. He's 27th in points. He has one top 10. There's definitely been an improvement from last year and the year before, but it's just not enough. And I'm not talking bad about Riley at all. Just, it's not enough. You can't be in that equipment and be that far off from everybody else in that equipment, especially when Heim is part-time and out racing you and outperforming you. It's not a knock on him and his skill or anything else. It's just, it's not enough. And you have a bunch of people on Saturday that are trying to be racing on Sunday with Cory Day, Jesse Love, and there's some more on their way up. Like, you're just creating a clog if you don't figure it out. So, I mean, I think he is showing potential to earn another ride next year. I think Legacies seems like it's going to happen, but to be honest, right now, until Riley gets a top 5, like, I don't think he deserves it right now. And that's just based off results. Just based off results. You got to finish races.
Yeah, I couldn't agree. I couldn't agree more, Cory. And Riley Hurt, and every driver is different. Some drivers pick it up quicker than other drivers. Like I was talking not all that long ago earlier on in the show about Shane Van Gisbergen and Marcus Ambrose. I felt like that they're both kind of on the same path. They have both very similar skill sets, but obviously Shane's picking it up a little quicker than Marcus Ambrose and how quickly he picked it up. You can kind of put Juan Pablo Montoya in that same sort of vein as Marcus Ambrose. They weren't quite able to pick it up as quickly as Shane. Well, Heim's quickly picking it up. He's a natural talent. He's more of a natural talent. Some people are more natural talent. Some drivers need more training and need to work harder. Because remember Riley Herbst when he was racing in the O'Reilly Series or the Xfinity Series at the time. Those first couple of years in the Xfinity Series, he struggled with Joe Gibbs Racing. He struggled with Stuart Haas for a number of years, and I think a lot of us thought at that time is like he's only here because of his family, this and that. He's not really that good. He's not that talented. Blah blah blah. But eventually he figured it out and he started winning races. Like he won Vegas, he won at the Brickyard. He started winning races. He started being competitive and stuff. So I think Riley Herbst is just one of those drivers that needs a longer leash. He needs more time. And that's one thing I've always harped about when it comes to Daniel Suarez. Like Daniel Suarez, one of my favorite drivers. I think he's one of the more talented guys, but he needs just more time. He needs time. And anytime he begins to get comfortable in a situation, he ends up getting shipped off to another race team. And hopefully Riley Herbst doesn't lose a lot of that momentum. The fact that he is going to be still with Toyota, possibly with Legacy, I think that could potentially be really good for him because he's not going to be working with the exact same people, but he's going to have some overlap, like being in the sim and all this and that. He's going to have some similar things. Especially if he stays at Toyota, I bet Denny and Reddick and Bubba and all of them would still be down to help. Of course, then he goes over to Legacy and look at the help he could potentially get over there. You got Jimmy Johnson. Obviously, Jimmy Johnson has never been good in this generation of cars, so you can't really give him a bunch of advice on how to be good in this car, but he can teach him how to be a good driver and how to be smart in the race car. Eric Jones, I consider Eric Jones to be the most underrated driver probably in our sport. I think he's very talented. John Hunter, I think he's very talented in his own right as well. He still needs time to grow himself. John Hunter, very similar to Riley Herbst, I think, in that aspect where he just needs more time to develop, more time to grow, more time to get used to this car. So I think Riley Herbst has a potential future. I don't think he's ever going to be a championship contender in the Cup Series. I don't think he's ever going to go that far. But I can see him winning races in the Cup Series. And last year, if I said that, you would have had to put me in a mental hospital because he just looked horrible last season. And this season, obviously, he's been the worst driver at 23XI. Even when Heim is out there, Heim is outperforming him. But I've definitely seen a step up this year. And in a couple of races this year, he's looked like he can get a top 5, looked like he can get a top 10 in a couple of races we've seen this season. But let us know your thoughts in the comments. How do you feel about Heim time finally going full time with 23XI? What number do you think he might race? He could race the 35, could race the 67. Maybe he picks a different number. We'll have to see on what number he may race. And also, let us know your thoughts on Riley Herbst, not just as a driver, but what do you think his future is? Think he goes to Legacy next year? Maybe he goes back down to O'Reilly. Maybe he races for RCR. Who knows? Who knows where he ends up? But let us know your thoughts in the comments. All right, we were just talking about Legacy Motor Club, and I think this is a good transition to talk more about Legacy Motor Club because it seems like there's a lot of stuff going on over there. It seems like they have a bright future, and ever since Jimmy Johnson kind of got into the ownership realm over there, it seems like they're really trying to build up for something bigger. And we've heard before that they're going to get more funding, that they're going to try to quickly improve and fast track and get 3 cars. They want to get, I don't know if you could even get 4 cars anymore, but I think at one point they discussed on possibly getting to that 4th car. But I think with the rules now, I don't know if you could have a 4th car anymore, if I'm not mistaken. But Legacy Motor Club are looking like they're continuing to try to improve. As Jimmy Johnson released this last week in a little interview, he said that they have 27 celebrity backers lined up to back Legacy Motor Club. Obviously, Darius Rucker is already a part of this, big time country star. He even did like a little mini country concert in the infield in Nashville this past week, right in front of the Legacy Motor Club haulers, which I found really cool and really interesting. Interesting thing to do at track. So a lot of money potentially coming into Legacy Motor Club. And I also do want to bring up Parker Retzlaff, because Parker Retzlaff this last weekend was racing a Toyota Tundra. I would also like to note that was Parker Retzlaff's first career Craftsman Truck Series start. And overall, he looked really good. He didn't obviously get the finish. He had issues throughout the race. But before he had those issues, he looked like he had a top 10, top 5, maybe even a top 3 race winning truck. Who knows? But he was definitely very fast. But the most interesting thing is that he was wearing a Legacy Motor Club fire suit. Obviously, he is not at Legacy Motor Club. He is not a Toyota driver. He's racing at Viking Motorsport, which right now has an alliance with Rich Childress Racing, so that would be Chevrolet. But this reminds me a lot of what happened with Caden Honeycutt last year. Caden Honeycutt signed a deal with Toyota to drive that 11 car. It wasn't known at the time, but it was an inside rumor. Later on, obviously got announced. But after he signed that contract, he got dropped by Nice, and he ended up racing for Stuart Friesen. When Stuart Friesen went out with injury, he raced that car for the rest of the year and almost won the championship. He got it all the way to the championship 4. So really great job by Caden Honeycutt last year. But this reminds me a lot of that. So maybe Retzlaff already has a deal with the Toyota team. Maybe Legacy Motor Club is getting, with all these celebrity backers and all this money coming in, maybe Legacy Motor Club is deciding to expand into the O'Reilly series, which I think would be really cool. Who knows? I would like more contending teams in the O'Reilly series and in the lower series in general. So who knows what that means? And I want to send it to Cory on this one, because Cory, we're both big supporters of Parker Retzlaff and everything he's able to accomplish. Mr. Crocker just be killing it. He outdoes what his equipment is pretty much every week. So I want to get your thoughts on the Parker Retzlaff aspect of all this, but also, what are your thoughts on Jimmy Johnson dropping kind of a bombshell here, saying that he potentially has 27 celebrity backers? That is a lot of money potentially coming into Legacy Motor Club, and maybe Legacy Motor Club is on the fast track to be one of the big teams in the Cup Series.
I think that is a hint towards expansion. And I think what you said in the group chat earlier was exactly what I'm about to say, is that they already have 3 charters, right? It's most likely going to be Riley Herbst for at least a year next year in
Yeah.
that 3rd charter. And then now they need to start developing, right? I think that's why he announced he has 27 celebrity backers, right? They can't get a 4th charter. So maybe get an Xfinity or oh my god, an O'Reilly team.
Damn it.
And I know, man, get an O'Reilly team, and that's why he was in that Legacy Motors Club, suit. Like, you're not gonna go in a truck, Toyota truck, your first truck race in a Legacy Motor Club suit. Like, that's the sign. There's a hint. There's something future going to happen. And one is awesome. I think you and me are both like so excited for him because we've been talking about him for a while when he was in the 31, last year in the 4, then now he's in the 99. And I didn't know how he was going to do this year. Like, that team's new partnership. Like, and he is killing it. Top 10. He's in the top 10 like every week. And it's awesome that it's getting noticed. Like, we're finally seeing it. I'm so excited. I hope whatever this is, it takes effect next year. I'd imagine it would. So I'm not trying to get ahead of myself, but it's going to be awesome. I really hope it's a legacy expansion into O'Reilly and Parker is in a Toyota in the O'Reilly series next year in good equipment.
Yeah, that's what I would like to see, and I just want to see more competitive race teams in the lower series because I remember when Penske was kicking ass down there, they would have an all-star in that car almost every week, and then they put Cindric in the car, and that's where Cindric kind of made his name for himself in NASCAR, was with how well he did in the O'Reilly series at the time, called the Xfinity series at the time. So I would just love to see more, like a lot more competitive teams in the O'Reilly series. So maybe they just decide to build an O'Reilly series program from the ground up. I think there is a big possibility that they could potentially purchase Sam Hunt and Sam Hunt Racing and purchase that race team. And you would already, at that point, you would already have, like, you have Harrison Burton already there waiting. And Harrison Burton, I think, is a very talented race car driver. Maybe you team up Harrison Burton with Parker Retzlaff, have 2 cars over there. Have Sam Hunt be a part owner of the O'Reilly series team, something like that. Who knows? If I had to predict something, I think that would be my prediction, that he purchases Sam Hunt Racing and all their cars, and Sam Hunt jumps on board of Legacy to be a part owner of Legacy Motor Club, which I think would be smart for both sides because Legacy Motor Club's obviously growing. And it would improve Sam Hunt's race cars, and you also get Harrison Burton in the deal. Harrison Burton, I think, is a very talented race car driver in his own right. So I think that would be my prediction with that. And yeah, Retzlaff, and I think Retzlaff is probably going to end up racing. I think I agree with you. It's a hint towards something. I have seen people online say that, oh, maybe Retzlaff's going Cup Series racing, and I think that is a possibility, but he's not ready. He's not at all ready. He doesn't even know what a good car feels like yet, let alone ready for the Cup Series. I just think that would be way too early. Retzlaff's not at all ready for the Cup Series. I think he's smart enough, and I think he's talented enough to be a Cup Series guy. But my big thing is he doesn't even know what a good car feels like. He's never been in a good race car before. He's always been in mediocre race cars at best. So I don't think he's ready for that. So I think the most likely thing is Legacy Motor Club's expanding to the O'Reilly series or potentially the Truck Series as well. But I don't see Retzlaff going back down into the Truck Series. That wouldn't make a lot of sense to me personally, but the Truck Series, the Truck is more comparable to the next gen car. So what am I to say? Who knows? Who knows what happens with all that? Maybe Tyler's able to make sense of all this. Tyler, how do we feel about Legacy Motor Club having potentially 27 celebrity backers, and what does Parker Retzlaff have to do with all of this?
I mean, Parker's been mentioned by just about everybody in the last couple of weeks, and that's crazy because his name started coming up. Not for us. I mean, we've been talking about him for years now, but his name started coming up with people like Kenny Wallace and all of these other people kind of randomly. So it definitely feels like he's getting the shot he deserves. Um, What I see happening personally is probably Legacy Builds goes into the O'Reilly series, right? And then probably does an open car for him the following year. Because then if you have an open car, I feel like you don't have to have all the races. You can put him in certain races, get his feet wet, things like that. And then the following year go from there. That's the only thing I can see happening.
Yeah, I get that.
Another thing about that too is don't forget C. Bell was on the box. Christopher Bell was on the box watching him in a Toyota truck
Yeah, that was interesting.
wearing a Legacy suit for the first time. So I'm like, that's crazy.
That
Like
was interesting.
it almost looked like Toyota fully backed him
Yeah.
for that truck race. Like there was like a deal was made almost.
Like Toyota wanted to see what he could do, kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, that because that's why I was kind of comparing it to the Honeycutt stuff because it just felt so similar to what was happening with Honeycutt around this same time last year. But obviously, his race team had a lot different of a reaction than Viking has because the moment that Nice got a sniff that Ken Honeycutt wasn't going to be with them next year, they just fired his, they just canned him, which I still don't like that. I think that was just completely unprofessional. And yeah, fire a talented race car driver who's doing really well for you in the middle of the season just because he's going to a different manufacturer next year. I just think is completely unprofessional, and I wouldn't recommend any drivers going to Nice. That's just my opinion, because that still sits very wrong with me. I found that very interesting what you were saying, Cory. I found that extremely interesting. They randomly panned away to Parker Retzlaff's pit box, and Christopher Bell looked like he's like a mentor for Retzlaff right now or something like that. And I don't think there's anybody better in the Toyota camp than Christopher Bell to really be that mentor, because Christopher Bell is one of the most well-rounded drivers in our sport. He's been to the championship 4. Obviously, he hasn't won a championship, but he's been in that championship situation. He's won a shitload of races at the O'Reilly Series, the Truck Series, and the Cup Series level. He's really been very strong at all three levels, so it makes a lot of sense. And yeah, I think that Toyota is kind of putting their arms around Retzlaff. They really see what sort of talent he has. And Tyler, you weren't talking a little bit ago. You were talking about randomly everybody kind of started talking about it. Everybody started really noticing him. And I think this year he's just kind of put himself on the map with how strong he's done. And the moment that Dale Jr. started bringing up Retzlaff, like Dale Jr. started talking about Retzlaff a bunch. Right when he did that, everybody's like, "Yeah, Junior's right," because everybody listens to Junior. Dale Jr.'s voice and words carry so much in our sport. I don't think even people that love Dale Jr. realize how much everybody listens to what Junior has to say. Everybody listens in complete silence.
Junior's king.
He is. He is. We all listen to Junior probably more than anybody because he was born into this sport. He's the son of in my opinion, the greatest driver to ever grace NASCAR with his presence, and Dale Earnhardt Sr. I just think it makes a lot of sense for Retzlaff to potentially be a Toyota already signed. I think he's already signed to Toyota. Not potentially. I think he is already signed to Toyota. It's just the question is, what does he do next year? Does Legacy Motor Club expand into the O'Reilly Series? Maybe he races a Cup car next year. I don't think that's the right decision if that's the decision, but maybe that's the case. Maybe he's just racing for a different Toyota team, and maybe he has something similar to what was happening with Ryan Preece. Because some of you may have remembered with Ryan Preece when he was at Stewart-Haas, before he ever signed with Stewart-Haas, he was like an alternate driver for Stewart-Haas Racing Cup team, and he just had a Ford contract underneath that. So maybe that's the case. Maybe he races for Joe Gibbs Racing or for Sam Hunt in the O'Reilly Series next year, but he has a legacy contract. I don't know. I think it's something we'll have to figure out pretty soon, but definitely they're leaving hints on putting him in a legacy Motor Club suit. They had to get that specially made for Retzlaff. It had the Truck Series patch on and everything. That wasn't by accident, that was done on purpose for some sort of reason.
I'll also say, like, it's also a coincidence that it happens the same week that Cory Heim is officially a Cup driver next year. You know what I mean? Like, the dots align. Okay, well, we lost that prospect's moving up. We need a new prospect.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they're like, let's take one of the best O'Reilly drivers that's available right now. And I think that's literally that simple.
Yeah, I think it's a really great decision on Toyota's part if they are putting their arms around Retzloff and saying you're part of the Toyota family. We believe in you. We're gonna try to get you into some really good cars here soon because I think if, for example, he ends up racing, I don't think this is what's gonna happen, but if he does get put into a Joe Gibbs racing car next year in the O'Reilly Series, he other than if unless Brent Cruz and Corey Day, if Brent Cruz and Corey Day are still in the O'Reilly Series next year, one of them might be my championship favorite. But right behind them, I would probably have Retzloff because I think so much of Retzloff. I just think he gets the very most out of his equipment, and I think he's a really smart driver for not have. He has a decent amount of experience at this point, but with how young he is, the fact that he's never really been in a great race car, with how smart he is behind the wheel, it's kind of surprising. He's obviously a very smart race car driver. But let us know your thoughts in the comments. How do you feel about Legacy Motor Club getting 27 celebrity backers? That's very interesting, and Legacy's getting a lot of money thrown into it. So what is the future for Legacy Motor Club? Do they expand in the O'Reilly Series? Maybe, who knows? Who knows what happens? And what does Parker Retzloff have to do with all this? Because he was wearing a fire suit for his Truck Series race at Nashville. Our last big silly season story I want to talk about. And I think on some people's scale, it's not a big story, but for me, I think and I think for maybe all of us as well. I don't know how Cory and Tyler exactly feel about this, but I think it's one of the bigger stories when it comes to the silly season at the moment. We've talked about Nick Sanchez quite a bit on this channel, how talented of a race car driver he is, how much he has proven in his short time, whether that's the Truck Series or in the O'Reilly Series. He's proven that he's a very talented race car driver that could eventually make it to the Cup Series level. Well, of course, what had happened last year, he had a very strong season with a big machine. We all see how his replacement, Patrick Staropoli, is doing this year. He's doing bad, to say the least. He's doing horrible, to say the least. Staropoli also doesn't have a lot of experience. I'll give him a little bit of a benefit of the doubt. But they ended up releasing Nick Sanchez because Staropoli was able to bring in more sponsorship dollars. My bad. Staropoli was able to bring in more sponsorship dollars, so they ended up letting go Nick Sanchez pretty much right before the season ended up starting. Then Nick Sanchez got a ride with AM Racing, who's been going through some struggles over the last couple of years, and then it just seemed like they ran out of money because they seem to have closed shop for the rest of the year and have released Nick Sanchez from his contract. So Sanchez has been a free agent here during the season, and he's going to actually get 4 races racing for Peterson Racing in the number 87. So that's really good for Nick Sanchez because I think he's a very talented race car driver. It really sucks for Austin Green because I think Austin Green he's really beginning to figure out NASCAR. I know he comes from road racing more or less. He's more of a sports car sort of guy. Obviously, his dad was a champion in the O'Reilly Series at one point, known as the Busch Series. His dad, David Green, won a championship in that Wolf number 37 all those years ago in the Busch Series. So he was kind of raised in NASCAR, and I think he's really, really improving quite a bit in the O'Reilly Series, and he's proven that he could be a competitive driver in the O'Reilly Series if you get him into the right equipment. I think he could be very competitive. So I'm kind of like on two different sides about this. I'm pumped. I'm pumped for Nick Sanchez because I think he's a very talented race car driver. And if he gets the time that he needs, I do think he will eventually be a Sunday guy. I think he has that sort of raw talent. I think Nick Sanchez at some point is a Sunday guy. So I'm real happy that he's going to get a couple of races in this car to maybe prove himself. But at the same time, I'm like, Austin Green's doing really well for you. I don't think he's going to make the playoffs or the chase. I need to start calling it the chase. I'm so used to calling it the playoffs. But Austin Green, I don't know if he'll necessarily make it to the chase per se, but he's having a decent year. He's had some decent runs. He's definitely a very good road course racer. He's improving quite a bit on the oval side of things. So, and he seemed blindsided by this. He made a whole post, and his post kind of read similar to the RCR post years ago when RCR found out that Tyler Reddick was leaving for 23XI, saying, "Oh, this is ill-timed" and stuff. He was clearly blindsided by this news. So I definitely feel for him as well. So I'm two different sides on the two different sides of the fence, two different sides of the spectrum here. But overall, I'm just very happy that one of our more talented younger drivers, Nick Sanchez, is getting some more races. Is he should be a full-time driver in a quality car right now. Instead, just because he doesn't have a lot of money backing him, he's a free agent and he's kind of struggling at the moment. And I'll start with Cory on this one because we've talked about Nick Sanchez quite a bit. Cory, how do we feel about Nick Sanchez getting 4 races with Peterson? And how do we feel about the Austin Green side of this as well?
I mean, it's just how it reads, to be honest. Like, it's great news for Nick Sanchez because he deserves to be racing. But for Austin Green, like, I mean, I feel like he's been doing good with the equipment he's in. I mean, he hasn't been causing wrecks. He hasn't been a highlight reel for negativity. He's just been there and he's looked good on road courses. And yeah, he's just keeping his head clean. To lose 4 races and not do anything wrong is kind of a kick in the ass for no reason, right? So that sucks. But I mean, on the bright side, it's good for Nick Sanchez. But it sucks when one person gets essentially demoted and they did nothing wrong just because one shitty team went out of business and now there's a driver that deserves a ride. I wish it would have happened another way, but
Yeah.
I'm happy for Nick. So
Yeah, that's pretty much exactly how I feel about it. Overall, I'm just real happy for Nick because he deserves to be racing every single week. He deserves to be racing every single Saturday. He's a very talented race car driver. I'll never be a fan of big machine racing because of what they did to Nick Sanchez. I just thought that was really screwed up. And money makes the world go round, right? So it is what it is. It's just part of the business of not just NASCAR, but just business in general. But I feel like NASCAR deals with this more than a lot of other similar industries, I would say. But Tyler, how do we feel about this? Nick Sanchez will have 4 races in the Peterson number 87. And how do we feel about the Austin Green side of this? Because he seemed completely blindsided by the move.
I mean, it's hard. It's kind of what you get with these rent a rides, you know? It's whoever's got the most money to produce the most amount of sponsorships going to get in those rides. And Nick definitely deserves to be there. Don't get me wrong. It's not like he doesn't. But at the end of the day, Austin's done a great job, and there's no reason for him to be removed from that car. So it's a hard call, but at the end of the day, that's kind of how NASCAR works, man. It's rent a ride, and if you can produce the most amount of money for it, like you said, it makes the world go round.
Yeah, it's just the nature of the beast, unfortunately. It's just what it is, what it is. That's just how NASCAR is in this age. It's more about the money and the sponsorship you bring to the table than the actual talent. That's why Nick Sanchez lost his ride over at Big Machine. AM Racing ended up closing down because Nick Sanchez didn't really bring any sponsorship to the table, and it was already a struggling race team at the time. So they ended up closing down because they weren't really making any money having Nick Sanchez in the car. So it's just the nature of the beast. It's the nature of the beast. But let us know your thoughts in the comments. How do you feel about Nick Sanchez getting 4 races in the Peterson number 87? And how do you feel about the Austin Green side of this? Because he's been doing well. He hasn't been kicking ass, but he's been doing really well in the equipment that he has. So how do you feel about all that? Let us know in the comments. All right, before we move on to Michigan, we do have a bunch of other silly season rumors and stories, and I want to get the boys' thoughts on if any of these rumors are really sticking out to them, because we've had a bunch of rumors pop up over the last couple of days, over the last couple of weeks, with the RCR, with Spire, a bunch of rumors going around. Of course, everything going on with the 48 car. I've even heard rumors that Bowman might even retire at the end of the year. I've been seeing a lot of different things. I'll go to Tyler first on this one. Tyler, we've been seeing a lot of rumors being talked about. Bob made a big post earlier today. There's been just a lot of chatter because this is the beginning of silly season. I was talking about it last week that we're beginning to get into silly season, and it looks like this is the start of silly season at this point with Cory Heim, who is probably the big domino, I would say, finally being signed. We're seeing a lot of silly season rumors and news beginning to come out. Are any of these rumors or news really jumping out to you that we've seen over the last couple of days?
Me, Noah Gregson.
Yeah.
Noah, man. Everything's turning up Noah right now, and that's all I care about. Personally, I want to see him back in a Chevy. I know that Bass Pro is talking to somebody somewhere because their name's being brought up very quickly, and I know he's very tight with them with his junior motorsports career. So, I mean, if anything, that's about the only thing I care about. Get Noah out of a Toyota, please.
You mean Ford?
Or Toyota, I don't give a shit. He's been in everything but where he needs to be, and that's a damn Chevy.
Yeah, I could agree with that. I'm a big fan of Noah Gragson. I think we're all big fans of Noah Gragson. His personality, when he was a junior motorsports, he clearly showed how much talent he had. He was competing for the championship. He was winning a bunch of races. He was puking all over the place, you know. So uh, I just
I
thought
want more puking.
want more puking. I immediately thought of him posting the picture. I think it was
You
the
two are
first.
sick. You shouldn't be saying that.
That's true. But I immediately thought about the picture he posted last week. I think it was the first time that he ended up puking at the end of these races. He puked inside the safer barriers at Martinsville, and Kyle Busch is patting him on the back. It's like, good win, bud. But it was. I'll always remember that. That's just great. That was a great memory to come back to my feed right there. But yeah, Noah Gragson has one of the biggest personalities in our sport. I would compare him very similar to like a Bubba Wallace in the fact of if he's not necessarily enjoying what's going on, like if he's not getting the finishes he wants and this and that, he tends to be really down on himself. He tends to perform way worse than he actually is because once he's cold, he's ice cold, and he just tumbles down, and that's what Gregson is, and a lot of drivers are like that. Gregson isn't the only one. Bubba Wallace, like I just said, is another prime example of that. So I would love to see Gregson get an opportunity in a better race car. I do think that, and also with the rumors of Front Row Motorsports potentially moving on from Gregson at the end of the year already to maybe Layne Riggs or Chandler Smith moving up to the Cup Series. The rumor is that he might move over to RCR and take over Kyle Busch's old ride and drive probably the number 33 next year with that Bass Pro Shops connection, which would make a lot of sense to me. I don't know. I don't think that's what's going to happen, unfortunately, just because of Gregson's performance. But I do see that as a possibility, and I have seen the rumors being talked about. So we'll have to see what the future is for Noah Gragson in the Cup Series and in NASCAR in general. Cory, are any of these silly season rumors or talking points really jumping out to you?
I think it's hard not to look at the Noah one. I think the Noah one makes too much sense. It just makes too much sense. The Bass Pro Shops sponsorship, um, losing a personality in Kyle Busch and replacing it with a personality in Noah Gragson, and Noah goes back to Chevy, and Noah gets his Bass Pro Shop sponsorship back, and there's a lot of writing on the wall. I think one of the things that was in the silly season notes from Bob today was like all the sponsorships that Kyle Busch has. A lot of them require you to be, and look of age, right? So Jesse Love does not fit that bill, and Noah Gragson does, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's just that is too perfect of a fit to not happen in my mind. Even if the results Noah's had the past few years isn't worthy of it, the writing's on the wall that that guy should be with that team. If he he looks RCR type, it's just looks, and I hope it happens. That'd be cool. Um, I think Spire runs it back with the full squad. That's just my theory. I think McDowell's been too consistent as of late. Unless he just has a really crappy end of year, maybe they ask him to retire. But I think they give McDowell one more year and just running back. Suarez got that win that we talked about, and yeah, I think the biggest news is Bowman's contract's up. I think Hendrick goes all in on trying to buy out Zilich and get Zilich. And if they can't get Zilich, I think they give Bowman another year and then try to get Zilich when his contract's up. And then, yeah. And then you could see like Zilich go to Hendrick, Love go to Trackhouse, and then Day kind of gets the crappy end of the stick or just waits until McDowell's retired to get a Spire job. That's just my theory of like the next year and a half.
Yeah, I could see all that when it comes to what you think might be the future for some of these teams in silly season. I think right now what we're seeing at RCR with Austin Hill taking over Rowdy's ride, driving the number 33. This is a tryout, I would say, for Austin Hill. If Austin Hill gets some good races in there and gets on par with Austin Dillon at least, maybe even has some better performances than Austin Dillon, I think this next month, maybe month and a half, I think is really an Austin Hill tryout. And if he's able to, because he's been very loyal to Richard Childress Racing, he has had many opportunities to leave, and he's stayed very loyal to Richard Childress Racing. He's been there for a number of years right now. He was when he first got there. He seemed to be promised a Cup Series ride at some point in his career. Obviously, he hasn't improved. Obviously, he's not having the greatest year this year. He hasn't gotten as good as I think we expected him to get. He's kind of leveled off when it comes to performance a little bit. So I would say I don't know who's going to get that ride, really. I do think that this next month and a half, though, is a tryout for Austin Hill. And if Austin Hill is able to prove that he could be a Cup Series Sunday guy, I think that ride's his. I think that ride will be Austin Hill if he's able to prove over the next month and a half. The fact that they're not even putting Jesse Love in the car right now tells me the sponsorship thing could potentially be an issue. Plus, that I think Jesse Love is going somewhere I think Jesse Love's going Cup Series racing next year. I just don't know where. That's my issue. I can't pinpoint where Jesse Love was going. At one point, I thought it was going to be Legacy. Now I think that's probably going to be Riley Herbst. Now I kind of agree with you, Cory. I think they probably keep Spire the same. Daniel Suarez is performing fantastic right now. He's doing really well. Carson Hocevar, he's the future of our sport. He's one of the most popular drivers in our sport. He's not going anywhere. And Michael McDowell's he's the elder statesman. He's the leader. He's the mentor of this race team. He's kind of the glue guy a little bit in a way. He kind of keeps everything together. So I think it makes a lot of sense for McDowell to return again next year. Obviously, a couple weeks ago, I talked about Kyle Busch. I thought Kyle Busch was going to take that ride, and obviously that's not on the table anymore. With Kyle Busch out of the picture, I think Michael McDowell probably keeps that ride at this point. But I wouldn't be super surprised if Jesse Love takes over that ride, or maybe a Cory Day. I don't see Zilich going over to Spire. I think that's a lateral move because I've seen some people talk about how they'll buy Zilich out of the contract and then put Zilich in the 71 for a year and then move him over to the 48 or something like that. I don't see that happening. Bowman, I don't know what Bowman's future is. I don't know what sort of like everyday sort of pain and stuff that Bowman's going through, because he's dealt with a lot of injuries over the last number of years. He's had a couple of concussions. I don't know. I don't know what Bowman's future is. I've been a big fan of Bowman. I don't know what his future is. I don't know where he's at next year. Cory Day, I wouldn't be surprised to see him in the 48. Wouldn't be surprised to see Zilich in the 48. So there's a lot of rotating pieces going on right now, and it looks like it could potentially be one of the more exciting silly seasons we've had in a long time. And also, you were saying earlier, Cory, that we all know that Corey Heim is going to win Rookie of the Year next year. I'm not quite sure about that, because we'll have to see who he's competing against, because we might have Cory Day in the 48 car. We might have Jesse Love racing in the Cup Series somewhere. Who knows? And I think Jesse Love could be quite competitive as well. Yeah, a lot of moving pieces right now, and I'm very interested to see where they all land. But let us know your thoughts. Which one of these like silly season rumors talking points is really standing out to you in this year's edition of NASCAR Silly Season? All right, now that we're done with all our stories, we're done with Nashville. Now we're going to begin to preview Michigan a little bit. Before we make our picks, I do want to go through the Michigan schedule and the facts, and of course, some weather and some notable entries. We do have Cletus McFarland in the field this weekend. All right, let's first go through the weekend schedule for Michigan International Speedway on Friday, and you're probably watching this on Friday. So today, on June 5th at 5 p.m., we have the Henry Ford Health 200 on Fox Sports 2. Of course, that is the ARCA Menards Series race. You have Cletus McFarland, you have Squirrel McNutt, amongst others in the field for that race. And at 7 p.m., I usually wouldn't include this series in the schedule, but it is at a racetrack in Michigan at Hartford Raceway. The World of Outlaws is actually racing on Friday night at 7 p.m. at Hartford. So if you're in the area, I recommend you go over there. If you're not in the area, you could watch the race on Dirt Vision. And then on Saturday morning, we have at 9:30 a.m., we have Craftsman Truck Series practice immediately followed by qualifying. And then at 1:30 p.m., we have the DQS Solutions and Staffing 250 on Fox Sports 1. And then at 5 p.m., we have Cup Series practice on Prime Video. And then at 6 p.m., we have Cup Series qualifying also on Prime Video. And then later that night, the ARCA Menard Series West is going at Tri-City Raceway, where it's the Napa Auto Care 150. It's the Greg Biffle Memorial Race, and that will be on Flow Racing at 11 p.m. Eastern Time. So a late start for the East Coast, but it is a West Coast race. And then on Sunday at 3 p.m., we have the Cup Series race, the Firekeepers Casino 400, of course, on Prime Video, the third, I should say, of 5 races. And then we'll look at the weekend facts for Michigan International Speedway. The Firekeepers Casino 400, the stages end at lap 45 for stage 1, 120 for stage 2, and it's a 200-lap event. Michigan International Speedway is actually located in Brooklyn, but not in New York, but in Brooklyn, Michigan. The track is 2 miles long. It's a D-shaped oval. The first Cup Series race was back in 1969 on June 15th, where it was won by the legendary Cale Yarborough. The active win leader at the racetrack, there's actually a 3-way tie. Joey Logano, Denny Hamlin, and Kyle Larson all have 3 victories in the Cup Series at the racetrack. And then, of course, last year's winner for the Cup Series was Denny Hamlin. The notable entries for the weekend in the Truck Series, we have Cory Heim in the number 1. We have Cletus McFarland making a start in the number 4. We have Spencer Davis making his return to the Truck Series, racing for Tricon in the number 5. We have Connor Mozak driving the number 7 for Spire, and also with Spire, once again, Carson Hocevar in the number 77. This is his home track. Daniel Dye driving the number 20 for McAnally, fresh off his great performance last week in Nashville. We have Parker Kligerman driving the number 25 free agent machine for Ram Colleague. We have Ricky Stenhouse Jr. making a start for Nice in the 42 alongside Ross Chastain in the 45. And then we have Christopher Bell racing for Stuart Friesen in the number 62. Of course, no O'Reilly Series this weekend. And then in the Cup Series, once again, Austin Hill is driving the former ride held by Kyle Busch in the number 33. The weekend weather report on Friday. It looks like it's going to be mostly cloudy. 24% chance of rain, so we'll have to see what ends up happening with all of that. On Saturday, looks like we're going to get thunderstorms potentially throughout the day, a 65% chance of rain. And then on Sunday, looks like it's a 50-50 chance that we're going to get rain affecting the Sunday event for Michigan International Speedway, a track that tends to be affected by rain. All right, now that we've gone through the schedule, the weather, some facts, our notable entries for the weekend of Michigan International Speedway, where we'll have the Cup Series and the Truck Series and also ARCA out there this weekend. Let's get some thoughts on Michigan. I'm a big fan of Michigan. I actually went there a couple of years ago. I like Darlington and Michigan are very close to me on my favorite racetrack I've been to, and I like them for very different reasons. Darlington feels a little bit more homey, and by what I mean by that, everybody's just so friendly. There's so many places you can just hang out and stuff if you go there to camp. So many places to hang out. You can feel the history. You can feel the nostalgia walking around there. It's obviously not the prettiest facility, but at the same time, you seem like you have a lot of freedom at that facility. It seems like everybody's there just to have a good time and hang out. Like I was freaking drinking beers on the Safer Barrier last year over at Darlington, for Pete's sake. So I really like Darlington Raceway, and I hope to go back there very soon. And I feel very similar about that last point on Michigan, how I would like to go back there again very soon. But with Michigan, my experience in Michigan, it's a party. Like it's a party that nobody talks about when you camp there. It's a great party. It's a great time to go there. You can feel the speed in your chest at Michigan, which is really cool. High speed, high bankings. and just always puts on a good race. But weather tends to mess with Michigan. We tend to have weather messing with Michigan because of all the lakes and the time of the year they usually go there. Weather ends up affecting the race in some way, shape, or form. So we'll have to see if the weather gets in the way this weekend once again at Michigan. But overall, I love Michigan International. Whether that's this generation of car, the last generation of car, the generation before that, Michigan has always put on a good show. Even back when it used to be fuel mileage races, it's always just done well for me. And I want to get the thoughts from the boys, and I'll start with Cory on this one. Cory, what are your quick thoughts on Michigan Speedway?
I think with this car, Michigan puts on one of the best races of the year. I think it's their highlight reel for Michigan is there's so many of them. There's so many good races. There's so many good finishes. It creates a lot of strategy, fuel saving, tire management, everything you want in a cup race. Michigan provides, especially the lanes. You're not stuck to one lane. You can pass in the middle, the top, the low side. There's so much that Michigan offers that you bringing up that it's awesome to camp there makes me really want to go there because I haven't been.
Yeah, it like Darlington was its own experience because of just how historic the racetrack is and everything. But I have never had probably so much fun at a racetrack than what I had at Michigan, just at the racetrack itself, just a party. It's just so fun. Everybody's so cool. A lot of Canadians out there too, which is really cool. I partied with a bunch of Canadians when I was there. I remember I was wearing this exact outfit because Kyle Busch was still driving the number 18 for Joe Gibbs Racing at the time, and he was racing the Interstate Batteries car that weekend. Actually started on the pole, and then he wrecked himself out at the very beginning of the race, which sucked to see. But I remember I was in the grandstands, I think, for qualifying or practice or something like that, and I was sitting near a couple of guys that were wearing the fuck Kyle Busch shirts with Chase Elliott flipping them off. They're wearing those shirts. And they're like, fuck Kyle Busch. And I'm like, yeah, I know he's an asshole, but what's up? And I started talking to them, and I ended up like partying with these guys that were wearing fuck Kyle Busch shirts, and I was wearing an old Kyle Busch merch. I love that racetrack. It's a great time, and I recommend anybody go to Brooklyn, and not Brooklyn, New York, Brooklyn, Michigan, and go to Michigan International Speedway because that is a hell of a time, and I would love to go back there sooner rather than later. But Tyler, how do we feel about Michigan?
And I love Michigan. It feels like it's one of the last fair tracks there is. I mean, it doesn't matter what make you are, you have a chance there. I think it's one of the only places Ford can still win at this point. So, I mean, I gotta love it. Like everybody said, there's always a run. There's always a run to have. There's a groove to find. I mean, Michigan's a great place to be.
You made a little point right there. I don't know if that's the point you were necessarily trying to make per se, but if you ask the drivers and if you ask the race teams, if you had to add one more, like if you had to have another crown jewel, which track deserves to be the crown jewel? They're going to say Michigan because it's so important to the manufacturers. It's so important to the OEMs, so important to the race teams because they're in a lot of those OEMs, manufacturers' backyards racing in Michigan. And it's always been a big deal and almost like a bragging point if one of those manufacturers or OEMs win at Michigan. So it's very important for these race teams and these OEMs to win at Michigan International Speedway. So it carries a little bit of a different weight compared to a lot of these other racetracks, I would say. But let us know your thoughts in the comments. How do you feel about Michigan International Speedway? What do you expect from this upcoming weekend? And maybe who's your pick to win this weekend at Michigan? Well, speaking of picks, it's time to finish up our show by, of course, going through our weekly picks. So let's update the standings here for you post Nashville. Of course, Cory got the victory with Denny Hamlin getting his second win on the season. So he gets 3 points for the weekly win, plus for the race win, he gets a 3 bonus points. So he got a total of 6 points this past weekend. Goes from 40 to 46 points and moves from third in the standings to second, which has Tyler drop down to last, who I felt really bad for Tyler. It looked like Kyle Larson was probably going to get him a good finish, and Kyle Larson ended up, he lost a tire at the very end of this race, it looked like. That's when
Blew a tire and then spun himself out on pit road just to prove a point.
Just to prove a point. But yeah, because if you saw that smoke when they were having that epic battle with Joe Gibbs Racing, that three-way battle, the smoke you saw on the entrance of pit lane was from Kyle Larson losing his tire and doing a self spin. So Tyler ended up finishing outside the top 20, only getting a single point this past weekend at Nashville. And then I picked Ty Gibbs, and I thought Ty Gibbs was going to get me a top 5, top 10. Didn't end up quite getting the finish that I thought he maybe deserved. Finished outside the top 10, but I still finished in front of Tyler, so I got 2 points, but I didn't get any bonus points. But talking about Tyler last season he was amazing all year long, had the best average finish, was just the most consistent guy all year long. Just, in my opinion, probably should have won the championship, but Shane Van Gisbergen exists, and that really helped Cory out last year. But Tyler, when it rains, it pours, because Tyler is ice cold. The first 9 races this year, Tyler had 3 weekly wins, 4 top 5, 7 top 10s, an average finish of 6.77. No DNFs, but no race wins. A great start to the season. But then over the last 7 races, he only has 1 weekly win. He has 1 weekly win, race win, top 5, top 10 over the last couple of weeks. Obviously, that was that win with Shane Van Gisbergen. And he also got his first ever DNF in weekly picks over the last 7 races. And even with that race win included, this is including the race win, his average finish is 21.43 over the last 7 races. So a disappointing last couple of races for Tyler. And Tyler's fallen back to last in points. Now a pretty big gap back to 3rd. So he'll actually end up getting the first pick this week. We, of course, will save our potential Hail Mary bonuses until the end. And the only person that could use up a Hail Mary bonus at this time would be Tyler. And he has this week at Michigan, and he has next week at Pocono to use that Hail Mary bonus to get some bonus points. And, of course, he can't get unapproved by one of us. If he does, then he'll have to change his pick. And then hopefully he doesn't get unapproved again. So Tyler, of course, save your Hail Mary bonus for the end if you decide to use it. But Tyler, who is your pick to win at Michigan International Speedway this weekend?
Nervous to say it, but let's go Ryan Blaney.
Ryan Blaney. I think that's a smart pick, man. I really do. As long as he doesn't have any issues, I think that's overall a smart pick for me. Because he's just been consistent. He's a consistent guy. He's always looking good he's always looking good. So I think that's a good pick, man. I wouldn't be too upset with that pick personally. I think that's probably a really good pick for you. And that will
I'm just worried that I'm the curse this year, man.
Maybe. You even put Daniel Suarez in victory lane.
I put Daniel Suarez in victory lane. If I wore anything from your stuff, you crashed. If you've been at a race, like, it's been bad for me this year, man.
Yeah, it just hasn't quite gone Tyler's way. Momentum is definitely a thing. I didn't think it would be a thing in the weekly picks, but momentum is a big thing for sure. So that will leave it to Cory. Cory, who is your pick to win at Michigan International Speedway this weekend?
The number 5, Kyle Larson, baby. Let's go. Chevy gets back in victory lane. Kyle Larson ends a 38 race winless streak. Let's go.
Yeah, the longest winless streak of Kyle Larson's Hendrick Motorsports career. I still can't believe it's been that long. He's always competitive. And if you keep yourself in position, eventually things will fall your way. So maybe Kyle Larson is able to get back to victory lane this weekend at Michigan. It wouldn't be a big surprise with the Auto Club not around anymore. I consider Michigan to be his best racetrack. So it wouldn't be a big surprise to see him back in victory lane. So that will leave it to me. And my pick this week will actually be Chase Briscoe. I'm going to pick the driver of the number 19. Chase Briscoe, he'll be my pick to win this weekend at Michigan International Speedway. So to go over our primary picks one more time, Tyler has picked Ryan Blaney, the driver of the number 12 for Team Penske. Cory has decided to pick Kyle Larson, and thank you, Kyle Larson, for the donations to the Bundle of Joy. I greatly appreciate that. 2 straight nights that he did it because he won 2 straight nights. So round of applause for Larson on that. I greatly appreciate that for sure. But he picks Kyle Larson, the driver of the number 5 for Hendrick Motorsports, and I've picked Chase Briscoe, the driver of the number 19 for Joe Gibbs Racing. So that will leave us to our Hail Mary bonuses, and Tyler's the only one that could take it. Tyler, are you going to take your Hail Mary bonus or at least attempt it this week?
Yeah.
Okay, who is your first attempt at the Hail Mary bonus for Michigan?
Let's go with Shane Van Gisbergen.
Shane Van Gisbergen. I'll approve that. Question is, does Cory approve it? He's the SVG king, by the way. He won a championship because of this guy last year.
You already got points off him. No, declined.
Damn, that's crazy. He declined it. He declined it. So that means Cory can't deny the next one, but are you going to take another attempt?
Yeah, next one's going to be Zane Smith.
Ooh, I'll approve that. Zane's been doing well. So Zane, yeah, I'll approve that. So Zane Smith is the Hail Mary bonus pick for Tyler for Michigan, and I think that's a good pick because Zane Smith has looked good. You were talking bad about front row earlier, and I was about to say, but Zane Smith's looking pretty good though, isn't he? He's been looking pretty good.
Zane's looking good right now for sure.
Over the last couple of weeks, he's been looking good. He's been running right around 10th to 15th pretty much every week, at times near the top 5. Like, Zane's talent's finally beginning to poke out. He showed a lot of talent in the truck series. He showed some talent, I remember, for junior back in the day. Not back in the day, but a couple of years ago, I should say. So I don't think that's a bad pick. So Tyler has decided that his Hail Mary bonus for this series of 8 will be the driver of the number 38 for Front Row Motorsports, Zane Smith. All right, so that'll do it for this week's edition of Weekly Picks, and let us know in the comments, who is your pick to win at Michigan this weekend? All right, so that'll actually do it for this week's edition of Hit the Pacecar. Whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on Spotify, we would appreciate a like, follow, comment, subscribe, share, do whatever you need to do. But before we head out, I do want to get the boys for last word. Cory, anything you got to say to the people before we head out?
Be safe. Get yourself checked. If you're sick, get checked. Don't be a man and man it out. Have a good one. Let's have a good weekend at Michigan.
Let's have a good weekend in Michigan indeed. I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully we don't get weather affecting us this weekend. I love Michigan, and I'm looking forward to a good weekend of racing. And Cletus McFarland, he's going to be doing the command from the truck, I assume, because he's racing in the race. We haven't seen that in a while. So I'm excited to see Cletus and Squirrel McNutt out there this weekend. So it should be a good weekend of not just racing, but also entertainment, because it's always entertaining when Cletus and the crew are out there. Tyler, any last words for the people before we head out?
In honor of Rowdy's anniversary of his final win.
Yes, it is.
Go find yourself some Rebel. Go find yourself some 3-Chi. Do some toast. Do what you got to do.
Yeah, if some of you may not know that today is actually the 3-year anniversary of Kyle Busch's last Cup Series win. Came at Worldwide Technology Raceway. I'm wearing all my Rowdy gear. I also learned today that Jimmy Johnson's last career win came on the exact same day 6 years earlier. So both of their last wins were on June 4th. Jimmy Johnson and Kyle Busch. Jimmy Johnson still can maybe win another race. I doubt it, but he can still technically win another race because he's not fully retired yet. But I found that very interesting. So shout out Rowdy, shout out the Busch family. We miss you, Rowdy. We miss you, Wild Thing, Shrub. We miss you for sure. But let us know your thoughts in the comments about everything we talked about here today. And for the Pacecar Boys, I'm Trackside Larry, and just make sure to be a badass today and get rowdy.